Hey guys, tonight, we saddle up and ride into a place where your name means nothing. Your past is just a rumor, and everyone's finger hovers a little too close to the trigger. The sun is high, the saloon doors swing like judgment, and the dust under your boots carries more secrets than the sheriff's safe. It's the Old West, and you're the new face in town, which means your odds of surviving the night are not amazing. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the local time in the comments. Always fun to see where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive on a horse that's seen better days, its ribs showing beneath faded hide, one ear twitching at imaginary flies. The town you're riding into is little more than a few crooked buildings crouched under the relentless sun. Half a saloon, a jail that might just be a metaphor, and a general store whose shelves are as bare as a gambler's promises. The sign over the saloon reads Lydia's in chipped red paint, and someone's tried to scratch out the L, which tells you just enough about the clientele. Your spurs jingle too loudly, and that's mistake number one. In this place, sound draws eyes, and eyes weigh you. Every porch hosts a man chewing something, spitting something, or scratching something. A few hands drift close to their hips. No one says howdy. And that's when it hits you, this place doesn't like strangers. It barely tolerates its own. You tie up your horse slow, not because you're cautious, but because you're trying to remember if your revolver is loaded. It isn't. That's mistake number two. The wooden walkway groans under your boots. Dust clings to your shirt. Your tongue is dry and you haven't even made it to the saloon doors. You think about turning back, riding out, pretending you never came, but something holds you. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's pride, or maybe you just want to see what happens. Inside the saloon, the air changes. It's cooler, darker, the kind of place that smells like spilled whiskey, mildew, and secrets. There's a piano in the corner, broken keys like missing teeth. The bartender doesn't nod. The woman at the far table doesn't smile. The man beside her, he just stares. And not in the curious way. You slide onto a stool like you belong there. That's your only play. You ask for water. The bartender pours something that isn't quite clear, and you drink it like it won't kill you. That earns you a chuckle from the man at the table. You glance his way. Mistake number three. He's not laughing with you. He's laughing at you. His chair scrapes back, boots echoing against the floorboards. You hear the squeak of leather as his hand brushes near his hip. Yours isn't even on your gun yet, but you hold eye contact. You don't blink. He steps close, smells like smoke and salt beef. You from around here, he asks, and it's not a question. It's a warning. You lie. Sure. He raises an eyebrow. Then you know what happens to liars around here. Fun fact, in Tombstone, Arizona, a real town, not just a movie set. Locals once threw a drifter into a well just for smirking wrong. Historians still argue whether he lived or not, but either way, nobody pulled him back up for a week. You don't smirk. Instead, you say nothing. Because silence can be armor out here. You let him lean in close enough to smell your fear, but not your bluff. He waits for something, maybe a flinch, maybe an excuse. But you just sip your maybe water and stare at the mirror behind the bar, watching him through the warped glass. Eventually, he steps back. The chair squeaks again. He sits. Your heart keeps pounding. That was the first test. Out here, survival isn't about gunplay. It's about posture, presence, conviction. You ease your hand toward your gun now, casually, just to feel the weight. Cold metal against your palm. 6 chambers, only 3 loaded. That's enough. Probably. The bartender speaks. He's just messing with you. Mostly. You nod slow. Mostly is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Outside, you hear a gunshot. Not close, but not far either. No one inside reacts. The woman at the table cuts her steak. The man keeps sipping. The piano player plays one note, just one, and gives up. There's a myth that the Old West was constant chaos, but in truth, most folks avoided gunfights. Bullets were expensive. So was burying someone. And contrary to what Hollywood sells, shooting someone didn't make you a hero, it made you a problem. Still, fights happened. Not always for reasons that made sense. Sometimes just standing too tall in the wrong room could get you killed. Or like you just did, asking for water when whiskey was expected. Quirky tidbit. In Dodge City, there was a brief local ordinance requiring all visitors to check their firearms at the sheriff's office. It lasted about 3 weeks before the sheriff got shot with his own gun. You don't check your weapon. You keep it close. You know now this place is a test, and you've just barely passed the warm-up. Outside, a wind kicks up. Dust swirls like smoke devils in the street. You step out again, blinking into the sun. The man who sized you up is gone, or maybe he never left. You feel eyes from a second-story window. No movement, just tension. You mount your horse again, slower this time, and ride down the main strip. It's not a long ride, maybe 5 buildings end to end, but it's enough to see what's what. A blacksmith hammering something that doesn't look like a horseshoe. A boy sweeping a stoop who doesn't make eye contact. A church with a boarded-up window and no bell. You realize something unsettling. You haven't seen a single smile. Not one. Not even a fake one. It's like joy got shot here and nobody buried it properly. Your horse snorts. Stops. Ahead, 2 men in the street, facing each other, not moving, not talking, just staring. A duel. You stop, dismount, step back into the shadows of a porch. Watch. Their hands twitch near their hips. Then still. One of them spits. Then it happens. A blur. A flash. One man stumbles. The other stays standing. The one who falls doesn't move again. No one cheers. No one claps. The standing man holsters his weapon, turns, walks into the saloon. The bartender's already pouring. And you realize you're not watching a movie. You're watching a normal Tuesday. You swallow hard, adjust your hat, and whisper to yourself, I need to stay low. Because in the Old West, survival doesn't start with a gun. It starts with your posture, your instincts, and the number of mistakes you can afford to make. So far, you're at 3. The dust hasn't even settled from that duel before you're back in the saddle, keeping your profile low and your eyes on everything. You ride through the rest of town, slow like a man with nowhere to be, but you're clocking every door, every window, every potential threat. You're starting to realize that out here, even standing still too long can look like a challenge. The sign at the edge of town says, Welcome to Caldera Springs, a name that sounds like it used to mean something. Maybe it still does, but not in any way that helps you. The letters are weather-worn and half-swallowed by a nail rust pattern that looks vaguely like a gunshot wound. It feels more like a warning than a welcome. You ride on until you find something a little less populated, a barn-shaped structure pretending to be a stable run by a man with one arm and no visible patience. You dismount, toss him a coin, and tell him to keep the horse watered. He doesn't answer, just mutters something about folks who ask nicely not lasting long. You walk back into town on foot, and now the place feels smaller, more claustrophobic, like the buildings are leaning in. Like the stairs have multiplied. You remember that duel. Not how fast it happened, though it was fast, but how quietly the winner walked away. That's the part sticking with you. Not the death, but the indifference. You pass a hardware shop with a crooked door, and a rocking chair that rocks with no one in it. You pass a man carving something into a stick that looks too much like a steak. You pass a woman feeding chickens from a bucket, and she doesn't look up, but she definitely knows you're there. You stop in front of the sheriff's office, not because you want to, but because something inside you wants to believe there's law here, some kind of order. But the front porch is empty, and the star on the door is half painted over. A tumbleweed rolls by like the universe trying to make a joke. You open the door. Inside, it's dim and musty. One holding cell, empty. One desk, covered in dust. One coat rack with no coat. And behind the desk, a man who might be the sheriff, or just squatting in the sheriff's chair. Hard to tell because his boots are up, his hat's over his eyes, and his badge is pinned to a bottle of bourbon. "Sheriff," you ask. The man lifts his hat. His eyes are bloodshot, his beard untamed, and his smile, if you can call it that, shows more gold than teeth. He looks you over. You look like trouble. You shrug. So does this town. He chuckles at that. Doesn't stand up, doesn't offer a handshake. You knew just passing through. He raises a brow. You know how many corpses just passing through. You don't answer. He doesn't expect you to. He gestures to the window. This town don't like outsiders. Not 'cause they're bad folks, just itchy. Like a sunburn that won't quit. You ask him about the duel you saw. He nods. That's Bart Higgins and Caleb Marr. They've been fighting over the same woman for 3 years. She married someone else 2 months ago. You blink. Then why? He shrugs. Old habits. And that's your next lesson. Not all gunfights are about survival. Some are about pride. Ego. Stubbornness so thick it can't be reasoned with. Historians still argue whether the infamous Earp Clanton shootout at the OK Corral was a matter of law enforcement or just a personal vendetta in costume. You glance at the wanted posters on the wall. One is upside down. One is hand-drawn in what looks like crayon. And one has your face except the chin's too big and the name is spelled wrong. You point. That one's not me. The sheriff doesn't even look. Ain't none of them accurate. They just make people feel better. You're not sure if he means the townsfolk or the bounty hunters. You leave the office with a weird sense of déjà vu, like you've walked into a joke and missed the punchline. Back on the street, the air feels heavier. A wind is picking up again, carrying heat and tension in equal parts. You try to walk casual. Try not to look like you're casing the place. But the truth is, you are. Because if another gunfight breaks out, and let's be honest, you need to know where to duck, where to run, and who might be stupid enough to stand with you. You notice the saloon doors swing again. A different man walks out this time. Taller, leaner, chewing a toothpick with the deliberate slowness of someone who wants to be noticed. He glances your way, nods. His hat's pulled low, and his hands dangle close to his sides. You file him under potential threat and move on. You pass a building labeled Telegraph, which would be more convincing if the telegraph pole wasn't cracked in half. You pass a church bell hanging from a frame made of bones. You hope they're decorative. Then you see a small group of locals huddled in an alley whispering. They scatter when they notice you. Not like criminals, more like people who assume you're the criminal. You follow one slowly until he rounds a corner and disappears. Just gone. As if the town swallowed him. You're starting to get the impression that being alone here isn't just risky, it's practically an invitation. There's an old superstition from the frontier days: if you can hear your own footsteps too clearly, someone else is hearing them too. You test it. Step, step, step. Too loud. Far too loud. You duck into a feed store, pretend to browse, and watch through the dusty windows. Two men pass, one glances in. You step back. You're not being paranoid. You're being reasonable. Out here, suspicion is the same as instinct. The shopkeeper, a woman with arms like railroad ties, watches you like she's debating whether you're worth the effort of throwing out. You ain't buying, you ain't staying. You nod, mumble something, and leave. Outside, the sun's getting lower, but the air isn't cooling. Heat just sticks to your skin, now clings like a desperate thought. You hear a hammer cock, not directed at you, just part of the soundtrack here. You decide it's time to find a place to rest, somewhere with a wall behind you and one way in. You check Lydia's again. The saloon has rooms upstairs, but sleeping above a place where men shoot each other over card games seems unwise. Instead, you find a boarding house near the edge of town. Quiet, shabby. Run by a woman named May who has a rifle in plain view and a dog that doesn't bark. Room's $1, she says too, if you snore. You hand her $2, just in case. She gives you the key, nods toward the stairs. Lock your door. Some folks forget which room is theirs. You believe her. Upstairs, the room is small but serviceable. One window, one bed. No surprises. You sit on the mattress. It creaks like an omen. You take off your boots, your belt, your hat. Keep the revolver. You lean back just for a moment. You've survived your first full day in Caldera Springs. No bullet holes, no broken bones. Just a head full of questions and a gut full of knots. But this place, it's not done testing you. You wake before dawn because something doesn't feel right. Not a noise, not a creak. Just that itch like a sixth sense borrowed from some long-dead ancestor who once survived a Comanche ambush by sheer paranoia. You lie there, eyes open in the dark, breathing slow hand already on the grip of your revolver. Then it comes, the faintest shuffle outside your door. You don't move. Not yet. Another step. Floorboards whisper beneath boots, shackles. Then a hand on the doorknob, testing it. Click, locked. Another pause. You can picture them now. One man, 2 knife gun. They wait. Maybe hoping you're still asleep. Maybe hoping the lock's just decorative. You slowly sit up silent, feet on the floor. You let the revolver rest in your lap. Then the footsteps retreat, soft, but quick. Down the hall, down the stairs. You breathe again. Your first brush with nighttime danger in Caldera Springs, and you didn't even open your mouth. Smart. You live longer that way. When morning bleeds through the curtains, the town's already stirring. You head out, hat low, face unreadable. No one greets you. No one asks if you slept well. But a boy runs by with a loaf of bread and nearly bumps into you. He pauses, looks up, eyes wide. "Don't die today," he says like it's an everyday farewell. "Thanks," you mutter. You take that bread scent with you as you move toward Lydia's again. You still haven't eaten. And that place, while dangerous, is also where the town gathers. If you're going to figure this place out, you'll need to do it there, one drink and one overheard conversation at a time. The saloon's quieter this morning. Still smells like spilled regret, but softer. You nod at the bartender. He nods back. You sit at the same stool, the one that didn't get you shot last time. That one's safe, now you ask. Until someone dies on it again, he says. You order coffee. It comes thick and black like someone boiled tar and hope in the same pot. You sip. It hurts, but it's real. A man 2 stools over leans in. "Saw you come in yesterday." You say nothing. He smiles. 2 teeth missing, eyes like a buzzard's. You looked at Tom Brady. You blink. "The card player." He nods. Most folks avoid eye contact. Safer that way. You shrug. Wasn't planning on it. He chuckles. Ain't nobody plans on looking at Tom. Just happens, like trouble. That's the theme here, things just happen. Like lawlessness was baked into the town's foundation. You make a mental note next time, don't make accidental eye contact with someone who cheats at poker and shoots at whispers. You nurse the coffee a bit longer and pretend not to listen as the saloon fills in. Two men argue over a cow that wandered into someone's house. A woman complains that her husband disappeared after going to the general store 3 days ago. The bartender doesn't flinch. Apparently, store runs can be terminal out here. You finish the last of your coffee and rise, stretching slow. Time to learn the town a bit more, but first the general store. Partly for supplies, partly to see if the missing husband is now jerky. You cross the street and feel it again, eyes. Someone watching. Not directly, not obvious, but you know it. Inside the store, the air smells of flower tobacco and quiet desperation. Shelves are half stocked. The clerk looks startled that anyone walked in. "You lost?" he asks. "No, just low on ammo." He points to a dusty shelf. 3 bullets left. "Take 'em or leave 'em. You take 'em." As you pay, you glance around. A woman in the corner sorting nails. A man counting cans. Everyone pretending not to listen. You ask about the missing man. The clerk frowns. Tall beard, missing boot, maybe. He nods. Asked if we had salt. Left before we answered. And that's it. Gone. Like a breeze. There's a historical theory that frontier disappearances were more common than we admit, not because people died, but because they left. No note. No trace. Just rode out of one identity and into another. Historians still argue whether half the Old West's outlaws were just former farmers who got bored. You leave the store, head east, and spot something you didn't notice before a side street half hidden behind the stable. Narrow, shady, probably a shortcut, or a trap. You take it anyway. It's quieter here. The kind of quiet that means secrets, not peace. You pass a man whittling a spoon from what looks like a bone. You pass a boarded-up schoolhouse, its bell rusted to the frame. And you pass a wall with something carved into it, run backwards. You stare at it a moment too long. Someone clears their throat behind you. You spin. It's a woman. Late 30s, maybe. Brown hat, silver eyes rifle across her back. "You're new." You nod. She steps forward. "You got manners?" You shrug. "Sometimes." She grins. "Then I'll make this short. Don't go to the edge of town, not unless you're looking to disappear." You raise a brow. "Disappear," she just nods. "Ask the preacher if he still talks." And with that, she turns and walks away like a ghost with a schedule. You make your way back into the main street, more confused than ever. The town's giving you breadcrumbs, warnings, half-truths. You're starting to realize Caldera Springs isn't just dangerous. It's deliberately dangerous. Like it wants to test you, break you, or absorb you. You sit on a bench, let the sun cook your hat a little, watch 2 kids play with a hoop and stick while their mother scans the rooftops like she's expecting something to fall. You wonder what the townsfolk aren't saying, and that's when you see it. Tom Brady, the man from the saloon, the one you looked at. He's standing on the far end of the street watching you, not moving, not smiling. He taps his holster once, and then walks away. A message, a warning, a promise. You were told this might happen, and now you've got a decision to make. Confront him or avoid him. Either way, the town's watching, waiting, weighing you, because in Caldera Springs, even looking at someone the wrong way can end with gunpowder and regrets. And you're just starting to realize how wrong you've been looking at everything. You don't follow Tom Brady, not right away. You sit still. Because sometimes in the Old West, the most threatening thing you can do is nothing at all. You keep your eyes forward, hands resting lightly on your thighs, revolver tucked in its place like a sleeping dog you don't want to wake. Tom disappears behind Lydia's saloon, his coat trailing like the end of a threat. No one says a word. No one even pretends not to notice. It's just known something's coming. But not yet. You stand slowly brushing dust from your sleeves, walking not toward Tom, but in the opposite direction. Because you're not just trying to survive. You're trying to understand, and maybe learn who else has danced with death and walked away whistling. You make your way to the only other building that looks like it once meant something, the old church. The bell tower leans slightly, like it's tired of watching over sinners. Half the shingles are missing. The door creaks before your hand even touches it. Inside, it's cooler, darker wooden pews scattered and split like kindling. The altar's still there, covered in a faded cloth and dust thick enough to leave a message. Someone already has God left early. You sit, not to pray, just to breathe. From the shadows, a voice, raspy, weighted. You're the one who looked at Brady. You don't move. That's what they say. The voice comes closer. A man steps into view, old, thin, draped in black like morning itself. Preacher, maybe, or just someone who never stopped pretending. They shoot over less, he says. You nod. So I've heard. He sits beside you, not close, but close enough for the air to shift. Tom Brady ain't killed in 3 months. People are starting to whisper he's gone soft. You glance over. Doesn't feel soft. The preacher shrugs. Soft's just a word for someone who hasn't needed to kill recently. You think about that. About the way Tom stood in the street tapping his holster like a man checking a pocket watch. He gonna come for me? The preacher nods once. Not today. But yes. You let that sink in. It doesn't burn as much as you expected. Why wait, you ask? Because it ain't about anger. It's about rhythm. Men like him, they don't shoot out of rage. They shoot out of ritual. The right time, the right crowd. Like a play they've done 100 times and always want a better review. Outside, the wind shifts, carries voices, laughs, distant bootsteps. The preacher pulls something from his coat. A small wooden box. Slides it to you. What's this? Shells. Not bullets. Shells. Loaded with salt. You frown. Salt, he grins. Superstition, or maybe not. Town's older than its buildings, and folks here believe things that don't walk on 2 legs still die when you shoot them with salt. You open the box. 6 rounds, silver dipped and gritty. You pocket 3. Keep the other 3, you tell him. He shakes his head. Won't be me they're coming for. You leave the church feeling lighter and heavier at once. Outside, the town's changed again. Slightly, subtly. Like a stage set someone tilted. You walk through side streets, past a man selling lizards as watches. They move slow, but they tick eventually past a barber sleeping with scissors in hand, past a woman talking to a broken mirror in a voice too calm to be sane. Then gunfire. 1 shot. Not at you. Not near you. Just there. Part of the soundtrack again. You crouch behind a barrel. Listen. Nothing follows. You peek out. 2 men in the street, one slumped against a trough, clutching a bleeding shoulder. The other holstering his pistol like it's boring now. No shouts, no posse, no consequences. Just another Tuesday. You rise. Walk past. The wounded man looks at you, eyes glassy. Don't stare, he gasps. You nod. Keep walking. Another unwritten rule: don't watch a man bleed unless you're planning to stop it. You end up back at Lydia's. Inside, it's dim again. The piano player's trying to coax a tune out of something that's permanently out of tune. Tom Brady's back at his table card game in full swing. He doesn't look at you. That's the scariest part. You sit at the bar, order a drink. Doesn't matter what. It comes in a cloudy glass. You sip. You survive. A man takes the stool beside you. Young, nervous, smells like sweat and indecision. You him, he asks. Maybe. He looks over his shoulder. They say Brady's gonna duel you. You say nothing. Don't do it, he says. He killed my brother. I thought he hadn't killed in months. The young man nods. That's what they say. Doesn't mean it's true. You study him, shaky hands, eyes that haven't slept, a revolver too new on his belt. You want to kill him? He nods. But I can't. I freeze. I hear the countdown, and I just freeze. You sip your drink. You still want to help. He nods again. Then tell me where he practices. The young man hesitates, then leans in, back behind the church. Every dawn, shoots bottles off gravestones. Says the dead don't flinch. You pat him on the shoulder. Good. Now leave town. He blinks. What, leave? Now, while you still can. He hesitates, then nods. Walks out. You sit there a while, drink nearly untouched. Brady still doesn't look your way. Eventually you stand. Walk out into the sunset-drenched street. The air tastes like dust and something darker. You think about the bottles, the gravestones, the salt rounds in your pocket. You think about the way Brady tapped his holster, and you realize it's already started. The duel, the dance, the death sentence wearing boots. You're just in the opening act. The thing about a gunfight in the Old West is it's never truly fair. Even the ones they call honorable duels come packed with hesitation, misdirection, superstition, and just a sprinkle of self-delusion. What the town calls etiquette, you might call excuses to get shot slower. You walk away from Lydia's saloon under a sky thick with heat and dusk, your boots making soft impressions in the thirsty dirt. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then doesn't bark again. You think of that preacher's words, ritual, not rage. That's how men like Brady work. But now you're thinking about how the fight will come. Not just when, because you're not the only one watching him, and he's not the only one with something to prove. You cut behind the stable and out toward the backside of the churchyard. The gravestones sit unevenly, leaning like old men trying to hear better. A few bottles still stand balanced atop the taller markers, glass nicked and scorched from too many sunrises worth of practice. You draw your revolver slow and deliberate, just to feel it again. Weight matters, balance matters more. This ain't a movie, there's no music cue before the bullet flies. If you're lucky, the other guy is slow or stupid. If you're not, well, you won't be pondering etiquette from 6 feet under. You pace the yard, scanning the ground. You're not just looking for bottles, you're looking for signs of cheating. And sure enough, you find a small mark carved into one fence post, a notch, lined up perfectly with the sun at a certain angle. It gives away a tell. When the shooter sees the sun line up with that notch, they know it's high noon, even if they can't see a clock. It's a cue. And that's your historical fact of the evening. Many gunfighters in the West didn't carry watches. They used shadows, church bells, or the angle of light as timekeepers. A duel wasn't just about skill, it was about timing, familiarity. The stage. You find a second notch lower, facing the town's main street. Another cue. Brady doesn't just wait for someone to challenge him. He sets up the challenge. The way a magician sets up a trick. Only there's no curtain call, just a puddle in the dust and a body that might get buried. You walk back to the boarding house. May, the rifle-wielding landlady, watches from the porch. She lights a match with one hand, scratches her dog's ears with the other. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she says. "Not yet," you reply. "Then maybe you're about to become one." She flicks her match out. Doesn't laugh. Just opens the door for you. You head upstairs. You sit on the bed, revolver in your lap. And you think about rules. About how there aren't really any. They say there are. They say there's a count 1, 2, 3 draw. They say both men stand in the open, fair distance, no flinching. They say a crowd forms, a witness watches, and death happens with dignity. But you know better. You've seen better. Let's rewind a bit. Do you remember the Lincoln County War? It was supposed to be business. Instead, it turned into a free-for-all where men called lawmen ambushed their targets through windows. Historians still argue whether Billy the Kid was a gunslinger or just a paranoid teenager with a talent for hiding under floorboards. Either way, the rules were more of a suggestion. You practice drawing just once. No spin, no flare, just speed. It's slower than you want. You reload. Adjust your grip. The hammer feels tight today, like it knows what's coming and wants no part of it. You sleep badly. Not because of fear exactly. More like anticipation. Like your body's already preparing to bleed and wants to stretch before the performance. In the morning, you rise early. Brush the dust from your shirt. Check your bullets again. You keep 3 salt rounds in one pocket. Standard lead in the chamber. You eat nothing. You don't drink water either. Stupid, maybe. But it feels right. A duel isn't about comfort. It's about discomfort. Whoever handles it better lives longer. Outside, the town is already buzzing. Word's gotten out. Of course it has. Someone saw you looking at Brady. Someone else saw Brady look back. And now they're all pretending not to stare. The street clears slowly like a tide pulling back before the crash. You walk toward the center of the road. You don't run, don't swagger. You just arrive. Brady's already there. He's calm. That same lazy chew of the toothpick. Hands at his side. Shirt tucked in like he was born in it. A man with habits, and this is one of them. He speaks first. You bring a preacher. You shake your head. Didn't think I'd need one. He grins, optimistic. From the boardwalk, someone calls, "We got a timer." An old man steps forward with a pocket watch so ancient it might predate time itself. Brady gestures to him. "On your word." You nod. The crowd hushes. Even the wind holds its breath. The man with the watch squints. On 3, he says just loud enough. You roll your shoulders, flex your hand. 1. You stare at Brady's chest, not his eyes. Eyes lie. Shoulders twitch first. 2. He shifts just slightly, barely. His fingers tighten. He draws early. That's the trick. That's the game. You were never meant to survive. But here's what he doesn't know. You weren't waiting for 3. You already moved at 2. Your gun's already clearing leather when his hand's still halfway. 2 shots. Yours first. His late and wild. You stagger back. Not hit. Just rocked by the noise. He spins, then collapses. 1 clean shot through the shoulder. Not fatal, but enough. You walk forward, calm. No applause, just murmurs, movement. You stop over him. His face twisted in surprise. You cheated. You crouch low. No, you just counted slow. He passes out before he can answer. The old man with the watch shrugs. Guess we start counting on 2 now. You walk back through the crowd. Not smiling, not gloating. You didn't win. You survived. And that's not the same. Not out here. You wake up sore the next day, even though you're uninjured. It's the soreness that comes from tension, not trauma from holding every part of yourself still long enough to dodge a bullet. The town's quieter this morning. Not silent, not empty, just distant. Like it's reeling from yesterday's drama, but too proud to talk about it. You step out onto the porch of May's boarding house and see that no one meets your eye. No nods. No sideways glances. You're not a pariah, but you're not welcome either. You're known now. And in the Old West, that's a double-edged sword. You tighten your belt, adjust your revolver. Today you're riding out, not leaving for good, just exploring beyond the buildings. You need distance. You need to think. You need to decide what kind of man survives this place. Because you've realized something carrying a gun doesn't mean much unless you understand it. You've survived one duel by timing and luck. But if you want to stay alive, you need more than nerves. You need the right weapon, and you need to know it. So you visit the gunsmith. His shop's half buried in old crates and barrel lids reeking of grease iron and tobacco. The man himself looks like he was built from leftover rifle parts. Broad hands, metal-framed glasses, a beard full of soot. Name's Gus. No last name. He doesn't greet you, just squints at your revolver like it insulted his mother. You shoot this thing yesterday, he asks. You nod. He takes it, opens the chamber, snorts. Still got blood dust on it. And the barrel's dry. You clean it, you hesitate. He tosses it back. Then it's a corpse waiting to happen. You ask what he recommends. Gus walks behind the counter and pulls out something heavier. A Colt Navy. 1851 model. You know it by reputation. Long barrel, high accuracy, heavier recoil. This ain't no gambler's pea shooter, he says. This is a man's revolver. You ask how much. He shrugs. Depends. You want it for looks or to keep breathing. He names a price that makes you wince. But you pay it. Because you're not here to bargain, you're here to stay alive. Historical fact, the Colt Navy 1851 was one of the most popular sidearms in the West, especially before cartridge revolvers took over. Wild Bill Hickok famously carried a pair, ivory-handled, well-oiled, and always loaded. You holster your new purchase. Feel the difference immediately. It's heavier, yes, but more balanced, like it wants to be used. You give Gus a nod. Keep her clean, he says. And don't shoot nobody unless you mean it. These don't come with apologies. You walk out into sunlight and saddle your horse. It's time to learn whether you can shoot this thing as well as it feels. You ride out toward the edge of town, past the church, past the graveyard, past where the buildings start to fade into brush and sage. Out here, the silence is real, not suspicious. Just natural. You set up bottles on fence posts. 1, 2, 3. You pace backward, draw, fire. First shot wide, second better, third shattered glass. You smile, not because you're proud, because you're learning. That's more dangerous than being lucky. A small dust cloud rises nearby, and you turn fast, gun halfway up. Just a rabbit. You breathe again. You realize how fast you're becoming someone else. Because before all this, you flinched at thunder. Now you flinch at stillness. You take your time with the next shots. Reload, breathe, fire, hit, miss, adjust. The sun climbs higher. The air thickens. You take off your coat, keep your hat. Hydration's overrated, apparently. Then you hear hoofbeats. You holster, crouch behind your horse, squint toward the sound. 2 riders. Slow. Approaching casual, but not careless. You watch their hands. They stop 10 feet out. One raises a hand in greeting. No guns drawn. Yet. You the one beat Brady, he asks. You nod. Not bragging. Just confirming? He spits. We had money on him? You raise an eyebrow? You want it back? They both chuckle. The second rider speaks. Nah, but folks are talking. Some say it was luck. Some say you pulled early. You shrug. Some say a lot. He nods. You ever need backup, you ask for Harrow's boys. You don't recognize the name, but you commit it to memory. And if I don't need backup, then don't ask. And they ride off. You stand there a moment, letting that exchange settle. In the Old West, Alliances are like thunderstorms, sudden, loud, and prone to striking twice. You finish your target practice in silence, then pack up. As you ride back toward Caldera Springs, something flickers through your mind. Your gun doesn't make you safe. It makes you responsible. You're seen now. Not feared, not yet, but seen. And now that you're carrying a weapon worthy of attention, more eyes are going to find you. Back in town, you stop at the well near the center square. Refill your canteen, wash your face. The woman from the alley you remember, her silver-eyed with the rifle, leans on the corner post watching you. You shoot better now, she asks. Some. She tosses you a bullet. It's carved with a notch. Shoot once, she says. Make it count. What's the notch for? She shrugs. You'll know when it matters. And she walks away. You hold that bullet longer than you mean to. Then you pocket it. Back at the boarding house, you sit on the bed and clean the Colt Navy. Gus was right, the gun smells like purpose. You oil it slow. Check the barrel. Polish the cylinder. You've had weapons before. But this one feels like a promise. And you're just starting to understand what kind. You wake up on the fourth day with stiff fingers and the distinct gritty sensation of having slept with purpose. Your revolver sits beside you on the nightstand, clean as a whistle and twice as deadly. You stretch, crack your neck, and look out the window. Sun's barely cresting the rooftops, and already the town feels tense. You know what this is. The aftermath. You didn't die in a gunfight. You didn't freeze. You didn't shoot first. But you won. And that means folks have started putting you into categories. Some think you're dangerous. Others think you're lucky. And the rest, they're waiting for you to mess up. You pull on your boots, tuck the Colt Navy into your holster, and buckle the belt a notch tighter. Because here's the thing, carrying a good weapon means nothing if you can't use it. Not just fire it. Use it like it belongs in your hand. You step outside into morning light so bright it practically dares you to squint. Two men walk past and don't acknowledge you, but they don't avoid you either. That's new. You make your way to the saloon, not because you're thirsty, but because it's where the whispers go when they want to be heard. Lydia's is half full, early drinkers, a few card players, and the same busted piano that coughs out broken tunes like it's trying to die mid-song. The bartender eyes you. You gonna cause another scene? Only if the coffee's bad, you say. He smirks. Pours something that might pass for coffee if you close your eyes and forget you've tasted anything else in your life. You sip. Grimace. Sip again. Word is, the bartender says you shoot better sober. You glance sideways. You trying to make a point. He shrugs. Just saying. A lot of fellas think a little whiskey helps the nerves. Makes them faster. Truth is, most of them end up face down before their third blink. And there it is, today's lesson. Bullets fly straighter when you're sober. That's not just common sense. It's historical record. One of the lesser-known facts about frontier life. A good number of fatal duels were decided not by who had the faster draw, but by who had less whiskey in their system. The delay from drunken reflexes, just a fraction of a second, was enough to end a man. You scan the saloon. One table's got a group of cowhands arguing about fence lines. Another, a man asleep with his hat pulled low. But it's the far corner that catches your eye. Tom Brady's chair. Empty. Still. And it gives you a weird chill. Like something unresolved. You finish your drink and step back into the sun. No gunfire. No fanfare. Just you and the awareness that staying alive comes with a price everyone's watching to see if it was a fluke. You stroll toward the livery stable to check on your horse. The stable hand gives you a nod today. First time. Progress. Your horse is chewing hay like it's trying to forget the desert ever existed. You rub its neck, check the saddle, adjust the stirrups. Still alive, huh? A voice says behind you. It's the woman with the silver eyes again. You nod. For now. She smiles, barely. Brady's not dead, I noticed. You let him live, he shot second. She studies you for a moment like she's not sure if she respects you or pities you. Maybe both. People don't forget almost killings, she says. They carry those like IOUs. Good to know. She taps the edge of your saddle horn. You planning on heading out eventually? She leans in. Do it soon, before someone tries to collect your luck. And just like that, she's gone again. You're really starting to hate how quietly she moves. You mount up and ride out again, not far. Just to the edge of town. Past the cracked telegraph pole, past the general store where the clerk still eyes you like a long bet, and out onto the open road where the sagebrush dances in the heat. You ride until the silence swells, then stop. There in the open, you dismount. Draw. Practice. One bottle, one fence post. Bang. A miss. You adjust your grip. Breathe slower. Bang. The bottle topples. A clean hit. You reload. Fire again and again. A rhythm starts to form, action and stillness, noise and dust. This is how you train, not with bravado, but with precision. That's when you hear it. A faint click behind you. You freeze. Hand doesn't go for your gun, not yet. Your ears catch the sound, not a hammer cocking, but a boot stepping on dry wood. You pivot fast, hand brushing your Colt's grip, eyes already scanning for cover. Just a man. Skinny, dust-covered, nervous, no weapon out. Sorry, he says quickly, hands up. Didn't mean to sneak up. You nod slowly, then stop doing it. He laughs awkwardly. Name's Micah. I saw you with Brady. That shot, you're fast. You don't respond. He swallows. I'm not here for trouble, just looking to learn. Learn how to not die. You study him. Late teens, maybe. Too green for this place. But he's got that look, desperation mixed with ambition. You sigh. Lesson 1, bullets don't care what you want. Micah nods. What's lesson 2? You holster your weapon. Lesson 2 is don't shoot hungover. He grins. You think I'm joking? No, sir. Good. You give him one more look. He's not dangerous, not yet. But he's carrying a revolver far too clean, far too polished. It shines like a mirror in the sun. You point to it. You ever fired that? He shakes his head. Then you don't own it. It owns you. You mount your horse. He follows on foot, chattering like a dog that doesn't know when to sit. Was it true? He asks. You shot Brady on 2 instead of 3. You pause. It's true, I'm still breathing. Back in town, the heat's thick enough to chew. Micah heads off toward the saloon. You don't follow. Instead, you make your way to the water trough and splash your face. You're not just surviving anymore. You're building something. A rhythm. A style. A reputation. And reputations are like gunpowder, they burn fast and leave a mess when they blow. As you stand there dripping, a voice calls out, "Hey, you turn." It's Harrow's boys, the ones who offered you backup. You might want to come see, this one says. You follow, through the alley, past the old coop, into the shade behind the tailor's shop. They're nailed to the wall as a new poster. Your face, this time spelled right. Wanted dead or alive, reward 300. You stare at it. Well, you mutter, guess I'm famous now. Harrow's boy shrugs, or just really unpopular. And just like that, the stakes rise again. Because in the Old West, every bullet you dodge earns you 2 more. Your name on a wanted poster changes things. It's like a second skin, tight, uncomfortable, and impossible to peel off without bleeding. You stare at it a little longer than you should. the ink still tacky where someone pressed it to the wood. They even got your eyes right. That little downward squint you didn't know you had. There it is, drawn like a death sentence. $300. Not a fortune, but not nothing either. Enough to make a drifter raise his eyebrows. Enough to make a hungry man brave. You glance at Harrow's boys. They're watching you carefully now, like the math in their heads just changed. One of them spits, but it's a thoughtful kind of spit. You break the silence first. Dead or alive, huh? The one on the left, buckskin jacket, twitchy hands, shrugs. That part's always optional. Who posted it? He nods toward the saloon. Man from Santa Fe? Didn't leave a name. Left the poster. Left town same day. You peel the paper off the wall, fold it once, twice, stuff it in your coat. Guess I got fans. The taller one leans in, grinning. Don't worry, we still like you. Just might charge a little more if you ever ask for help again. You nod. Fair. You walk away slow. Calm. Inside your stomach's a storm, but outside you're a statue. Because the second you look rattled, someone's going to test that poster's fine print. You head back to May's. She's on the porch with a book in one hand and a rifle across her lap. Doesn't look up. Anything good in there, you ask? Better than what's waiting for you inside. That stops you. You reach for the door slow, open it slower, inside your horse, in the hallway. Mane dusty flanks, trembling reins dragging. It snorts when it sees you like it's relieved or maybe just annoyed it had to find you. You blink. May calls in from the porch. Kicked down the stable gate. Ran straight here. Didn't stop to eat or water. Like it was scared of something out there. You step closer, hand on the animal's neck. What scared you, it just shakes. You lead it back outside, loop the reins around the hitch post. Its ears stay pinned. You glance at May. Anyone else see it? She nods. Couple kids said it looked like the shadows were moving wrong. Shadows. May shrugs. Could have been heat shimmer, or could have been something worse. And now you're starting to feel it too. A weight. Not from the bounty, not from Brady, from somewhere farther out in the open range where things live that don't make sense but still leave tracks. You tighten the reins, pat the horse's side. It doesn't flinch. That's the scariest part. You mount up without a word. Ride out again, not to escape, to investigate. You ride past the usual landmarks, past the graveyard, the twisted fence post, the telegraph pole like a broken bone in the sky. Out where the grass grows in patches and the ground crunches under hoof. Then you find it. Tracks, but not from a horse. Long, thin, deep, like something dragging. You dismount, crouch. There's a smear in the dirt. Not blood, not exactly. Something thicker, darker. The smell hits you like gun oil and rot. Then you see it, half a boot print. Toes pointing away from town. Barely visible. Like whoever left it wanted to vanish. Quirky tidbit for the day. There's a long-standing tale in frontier folklore about the dustman, a faceless rider who only shows up when someone in town breaks a rule that doesn't exist until it's broken. No one agrees on what he is, just that if you see his tracks, you're either too late to stop him or just early enough to run. Historians still argue whether the legend's origin was metaphor, memory, or something in between. But either way, you've just found something the townsfolk won't talk about. You ride farther, and then out of the haze you see a cart. Broken axle. One wheel spinning in the breeze. No horse. No driver. You slow. Approach with your hand near your gun. Inside the cart, nothing. No crates, no food. Just a single bag of salt torn open, spilling like a trail of breadcrumbs. You reach down, pick up a handful. It's warm. Too warm. And that's when your horse backs up on its own. Ears flat, nostrils flaring. You draw your colt. Scan the horizon. Nothing moves. But that's the problem. Nothing is moving. No wind, no birds. Even the bugs are silent. You remount, gun still in hand, and turn back toward Caldera Springs. You ride faster than you should, because instinct is talking now louder than fear. And it's saying, leave this place alone for now. Back in town, people are gathered in knots, talking, pointing at you. You dismount near the boarding house. May meets you with a tight expression. They found a body near the river bend. You don't speak. She finishes, looked like it had been dragged. Half the bones, gone. You ask Tom Brady. She shakes her head, smaller, younger. Might have been one of Harrow's boys. You close your eyes for a beat. Not in mourning, in calculation. Because now you know two things for sure. One, your horse was right. And two, your gun isn't enough anymore. The Colt Navy feels heavy at your side, but suddenly not heavy enough. You make your way back to the preacher. Find him in the churchyard, tending a fire that smells like herbs and bad memories. He doesn't look up, just says, "You saw it, didn't you?" You nod. Not all of it, just the signs. He tosses something in the fire that hisses blue. Then you got one choice. Run, prepare. He reaches into his coat, pulls out a book wrapped in leather, scorched at the edges. Inside, pages of notes, diagrams, symbols, bullet calibers, plant tinctures, salt formations. This town's had trouble before, he says, but it comes in cycles, and you just landed right in the start of one. You take the book. Your fingers shake slightly, not from fear, from readiness, because survival just changed shape. It's no longer about the fastest draw. It's about knowing what's out there and being 1 second faster than whatever it is. You sit with the preacher long after the fire dies down, the scorched book resting heavy in your lap. The pages inside feel older than the paper they're printed on. The ink is faded in places, smeared in others, and some pages are clearly missing, ripped clean, like someone didn't want those stories remembered. You ask the preacher, "You ever see it? The thing in the dust?" He doesn't answer right away. Just tosses another twig into the embers and watches the flame hiss. "I've seen what it leaves behind," he says. "That's enough." You flip through the book. There are crude sketches, clawed prints, too long for a cougar, too narrow for a bear. Marks in the dirt like drag trails. Ritual symbols carved into stone. Some of them, you realize, match the ones you saw near the broken cart. Not just track signs. What is it, you ask? He finally meets your eyes. Nothing you can shoot clean. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. You close the book, tuck it into your coat. It feels like you just signed a contract without reading the fine print. You walk back toward the center of town, the book thumping softly against your ribs with every step. The sun's at its peak now, and the buildings around you seem to lean away from the light. You can't shake the feeling that the entire town is watching, windows squinting like eyes, doors cracked just enough to eavesdrop. The poster's still gone from the wall where you peeled it down. But that doesn't mean the bounty isn't fresh in everyone's mind. At the general store, the clerk pretends not to notice you. You buy more bullets, a canteen, rope, a flask you don't intend to fill with whiskey. Then you stop by the livery. The stable hand elbows, deep in mule sweat and saddle grease, looks up with the kind of frown that says he's got bad news but hasn't decided how honest to be about it. Your horse, he says, won't go near the west path anymore. You nod, not surprised. I seen animals spooked, seen 'em bolt, kick, cry. But this one just freezes, like it's listening to something I can't hear. That lines up too well with the unease crawling up your spine. You toss him a coin, keep him close. Wasn't planning to let him out of the stall. You step back into the heat, your boots sinking a little deeper into the dust than usual. That's probably your imagination. Probably. You start walking not west, not yet. You're heading to the only other place in town that might understand what's coming, the blacksmith. You find Gus behind his shop hammering something into shape on an anvil that's seen 3 wars and probably started one. His shirt's soaked, and his beard has metal shavings stuck in it. He looks up when you approach, but doesn't stop working. "You need horseshoes?" he asks. Something stranger. He grunts. "That your way of asking if I've ever forged salt rounds?" You blink. "Have you?" He slams the hammer one more time. Lets the iron rest. Once. Didn't work. But the trying of it. That's what mattered. You explain what you saw, the broken cart, the tracks, the dragging. You mention the preacher, the book, the salt bag torn open like a warning, and the thing in the distance just past what the sun could explain. Gus listens without flinching. When you finish, he gestures to a bench. "Sit. I got something." He disappears inside and returns with a metal case the size of a cigar box, opens it slow. Inside 6 bullets, thicker than standard silver core ringed with something pale and grainy. Salt ash and iron filings. Capped 'em myself. Do they work? Don't know. Haven't had the courage to find out. You take 3. Leave money. He refuses it. "I'd rather someone else finds out than me." You nod and leave. By now the sun's dropping. The streets cast long shadows that look like limbs stretched too far. You head to the river bend, where May said they found the body. You're not sure what you're looking for. A clue, a trail, maybe just proof that this isn't your imagination staging an uprising. You find the spot. Blood still dark on the stones. Drag marks, torn cloth caught on a thorn bush. The smell's gone cold, but the fear's still thick in the dirt. You crouch, feel the earth, still warm. And then, a sound. Not loud, not close, but wrong. Like breath, but backwards. You draw. Not the Colt. One of the salt rounds. You load it slow, not looking away from the trees at the edge of the water. Something moves. Not a person, not a deer. Too smooth, too low. You hold your breath. And it stops. Then just as sudden it vanishes. Not into the woods. Just out. You stand there for a long time, revolver raised. Until your hand aches. Until the air smells normal again. Then you turn. You walk back to town without holstering the weapon. At May's, she greets you on the steps again. Still in one piece, she says. Barely. She nods like that's the usual amount. You should know, she says. Someone's asking about you. Not bounty hunters, not locals, outsiders. You feel a cold spot open behind your ribs. How many 2 men? 1 woman, fancy coats, didn't blink enough. Said they were part of a committee. You blink. What kind of committee? The kind that doesn't explain itself. You open your hand. The salt round sweats a little in your palm. You've survived bullets. You've stared down killers. But now the rules are shifting, and you're not sure if your next fight will be with something human or something that remembers being human and took a wrong turn in the dust. Either way, you load another round, because the Old West doesn't hand out survival. It makes you earn it. Your sleep that night isn't sleep at all. It's something closer to shallow waiting, a limbo where your eyes close, but your hand still rests on your revolver and your mind keeps playing back the dragging sound by the river over and over like a needle stuck on the worst part of a song. At some point, your horse whinnies in the dark, but you don't get up. You just grip the revolver tighter and let the silence ride it out. By dawn, you feel like you've aged 10 years. You roll out of bed, slow joints, stiff mind murky. You splash cold water on your face from the chipped basin in the corner of the room. The mirror's cracked. You study your reflection in fragments. Still here, you mutter. Barely. You head downstairs, book tucked under your coat again. May's not in her usual chair. The dog's gone too. That somehow feels worse than any note could have said. You step outside. The morning's heavy already, sky dull and low like the clouds forgot how to float. On your way through town, you pass the preacher again. He's seated outside the church this time, rocking slow in a chair that creaks like old floorboards. They came by, he says, before you even greet him. You pause. The committee. He nods. Asked about you. Asked about the book. Asked if the dustman's been seen. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. That the dustman ain't seen. He's felt. You glance down at the leather-bound book under your arm. They still in town for now. Said they'd make contact soon. Didn't say with what. Great. You move on. Past the jail. Still empty. Past the saloon. Too quiet. Even the bartender isn't sweeping the porch like usual. Something's coiled today, like the town knows a storm's on the way, but no one wants to admit it out loud. You ride out again. The west path. Your horse hesitates at the edge of town, hooves digging into the dirt, muscles twitching like it's trying to resist itself. You dismount, whisper to it, softly run your hand along its neck. I'm not dragging you into this. You tie it under the old cottonwood, the one with the bullet scars in the bark. You go on alone, revolver holstered, salt rounds in your pocket. Out here, the land feels too open, like an invitation, like bait. You walk until you find the spot again, where the cart was, where the tracks led, where the smell of rot still lingers if the wind's just right. And this time, something is waiting. Not a monster, not the dustman, not yet. It's a man. Standing still in the tall grass. Long coat, pale hat, hands folded. He doesn't move when you approach. Doesn't blink. You keep your hand loose near your weapon. You with the committee, you ask. He nods, then say something. His voice is slow, deliberate, almost too calm. We monitor places like this, where the boundary wears thin. You frown. Boundary between what he looks you dead in the eye, what walks, and what wants to. You take a breath. It tastes stale like sun-baked parchment and old secrets. You think the dustman's coming. He smiles. He's already here. Has been. He just hasn't picked a shape yet. You reach into your coat, pull out the book. You want this. He shakes his head. We burned that book 20 years ago. You stare. No, you didn't. The preacher wasn't here 20 years ago. He came after. You feel a slow, cold hand curl around your spine. A trickle of sweat slides down your back, but your face doesn't change. You ask the question slowly. What are you? He finally moves, just his head tilting slightly, like a bird listening for worms. We're a prevention, not a solution. You're the solution. Me people die in this town every 10 years, disappear, go mad. The dustman feeds on patterns, on belief. Someone has to interrupt that pattern. And what exactly does that mean? He turns away. You'll know when he calls you by name. And he vanishes into the grass, like he was never there. You stand there for a long while, watching the space he left behind. The grass doesn't move. The air doesn't stir. You could convince yourself he was a dream if it weren't for the weird metallic tang he left in your throat. You walk back to the tree, untie your horse. It snorts, but doesn't bolt. As you ride back toward town, you spot something on the trail, fresh tracks. Boot prints. Running. You dismount. Follow. They lead to the telegraph station. What's left of it. The door's open, hinges ripped clean. Inside, broken glass, torn wire, and on the floor, one of Harrow's boys. Not dead, but close. You kneel. He's shaking. Did you see him, you whisper? The boy doesn't respond. Did you see the dustman, his eyes wide glazed lock with yours? He opens his mouth and laughs. It's the worst sound you've heard in weeks. You pull a blanket over him and step outside. You need air. You need clarity. What you get is Micah, the kid with the too clean gun and too big dreams. He's running towards you now, breathless. I found something, he gasps. Out past the ridge. A hole. A hole. He nods. Like a sinkhole. But breathing. You stare. You sure it wasn't just I threw a rock in? It came back up. You sigh. Because of course it did. You ride with him out past the ridge. He's right. It's not a hole, it's a mouth in the dirt. Circular, rimmed with dark clay. No sound, just a sensation like it's waiting. You look at Micah. He shrugs. I didn't want to go near it. Good instincts. You draw your Colt Navy, load one salt round, then toss it in. Nothing. Then a low, slow creak like the earth is stretching. And then the bullet comes back up, sitting on the edge. Clean, like it had never been fired. You both step back. You holster your gun and say, we're gonna need a bigger problem because this town, this isn't a place anymore. It's a threshold. And you just became the doorman. You don't talk much on the ride back. Micah babbles nervous energy spitting out in half-thoughts and what-ifs, but you let it pass through you like wind through cracked shutters. Your mind's already deep inside that hole, that breathing, thinking, waiting thing in the earth. The Colt Navy bumps gently against your thigh. For once, it doesn't feel like enough. Caldera Springs doesn't look the same when you ride in again. Same dusty streets, same tired buildings. But now everything feels like a set piece, a stage, and you're the poor sap who stumbled into the third act with no script. You tether your horse nod to Micah to disappear and head straight to the church. If there's anything left in that book to guide you, now's the time. The preacher's inside this time, lighting candles like he expects darkness sooner than sunset. He looks up when you walk in, eyes sharp. Something's waking, you say. He nods. Felt it in my knees. The old ones always said when your bones start aching without a storm, something worse is coming. You lay the book on the altar and open to a middle section you skipped before. Symbols, names. Some of them scratched out, others circled. One entry catches your eye. Do not speak its name at dusk. If it calls, do not follow. If you smell sulfur and hear silence, it's already in your house. You close the book. Slowly. I think we're past the warning phase. The preacher reaches into a drawer behind the pulpit, pulls out a pouch. Charcoal, cedar ash, pepper root, mix it with water, smear it across your chest. Keeps out things that borrow skin. You take it. How many of those things are real, you ask? All of them, he replies. Just not at the same time. On your way out, you see the boy from the telegraph station, the one who laughed. He's sitting on a crate now, staring at nothing. His hands twitch when you pass. His eyes don't blink. You stop. Kneel. Hey, you say gently. You still in there? No answer. You reach into your coat. Pull out the bullet. The hole spat back up. Hold it where he can see. His eyes follow it. Then he speaks. Low. Ragged. Did it talk to you? You feel your skin tighten. No. He nods. It will. You pocket the bullet again. As you rise, you hear a familiar click. Someone just cocked a hammer. You spin gun halfway up before you realize it's not aimed at you. It's aimed at him, sheriff's back. Somehow, standing with his badge crooked and his pistol rock steady. That boy's already gone, he says. He just don't know it yet. Put the gun down, you say. The sheriff doesn't flinch. I've seen what happens when you let him live. Seen it crawl out of people's eyes. Put it down. He studies you, then he lowers it. Slightly. You want to save him, be my guest? He mutters. But when his jaw unhinges and he speaks backwards, don't say I didn't warn you. You guide the boy back inside the church. He moves like sleepwalking. You leave him with the preacher who doesn't ask questions, just draws chalk symbols around the pews and whispers to something that doesn't answer. Back in town, the air is wrong again. Too quiet. No children, no hammering, no piano. You walk toward the general store, find the door open, find the clerk behind the counter, find that he's not blinking. You step inside. The bell above the door gives a strangled chime. Hello, you say. The clerk doesn't move. You walk closer, slowly. He's breathing, barely. Then his lips part, voice thin as thread. It's wearing your skin next. You step back, fast. He collapses behind the counter, alive, unconscious, or just emptied, you don't check. You walk outside again and see a new poster, not on a wall, on the ground, sprawled across the dirt. No nails, no tape, just lying there. Your face, again. But this time your eyes are scratched out. You pick it up. The back is marked in charcoal, a symbol you don't recognize, 3 spirals crossed through a single eye. You fold the paper, drop it into the horse trough, watch it burn underwater, and now you're sure. You're being hunted. Not by men, not even by the dustman, by something older than bullets and just as hungry. You gather supplies, ammo, salt, the pouch from the preacher, your coat, a lantern, one of Gus's iron-tipped spikes, and you head back out to the ridge. Micah's there waiting. He points down into the hole. It's deeper now. You believe him. You toss a rock in. It doesn't bounce. It doesn't echo. It just disappears. You draw your Colt Navy, load 3 rounds, 1 salt, 1 iron, 1 regular. You take a breath. Whatever's in there, Micah says, do we shoot it? You nod, eventually. Before or after it talks, before. You both stand there staring into that strange, soundless abyss. And then you hear it. Your name, whispered. Not from the hole, from behind you. You spin, nothing. Just the wind. But the taste in your mouth, that's not dust. That's sulfur. You raise your gun, say nothing, because the dustman's here now. Close, watching, choosing, and you're starting to understand. Surviving a gunfight takes skill. Surviving this takes clarity. You don't lower the Colt. Not yet. The hole in the ground sits behind you like a watching eye, and your shadow now leans in the wrong direction. That's what tips you off. More than anything, the sun is west, but your shadow points north. Micah hasn't noticed. Yet. You whisper, don't move. He freezes, then quietly, what is it? You answer with a question. Which way is your shadow facing? He glances, slowly. The color drains from his face. North, he says. That's not right, is it? No, you say. It's not. You step sideways, keeping your gun-level senses wide open. The air feels thick, like the town's old secrets are trying to wrap around your boots. You sniff just to be sure, and there it is again. Sulfur. Not strong. Just enough to curl your lip. Then something whispers. Not your name this time. Micah's. He jerks his head eyes, scanning wildly. Who said that? I did, the voice replies. But it didn't come from outside Micah. It came from inside his throat. You turn to him slowly, his eyes wide, lips trembling. His jaw twitches like something behind it is knocking, asking to come out. Micah, you say calmly, do not speak. He nods, but his shoulders tremble. You step toward him, Colt still raised. I'm going to put this away, you say. But if your mouth opens and it's not you talking, I won't give you a second chance. He squeezes his eyes shut, nods again. You holster, slowly, fingers itching the whole time. Then you take the pouch from the preacher, pull out a handful of ash and smear it in a line across Micah's forehead. He winces like it burns. Good. You mutter words from the book, words you don't understand, words scrawled in desperate margins with shaky hands. Micah gasps, then breathes, and just like that, the sulfur's gone. So is the voice. The shadow still wrong, but maybe a little less wrong. You sit him down on a boulder. Watch him. You're going to be quiet for the rest of the day, you say. He nods, barely keeping it together. You hear anything else, you continue, you tell me first, and you don't answer it. Another nod. You draw your revolver again, just in case. Because now you understand what the preacher meant. The dustman doesn't walk into town, he seeps in. One voice, one whisper, one crooked shadow at a time. You walk back to town with Micah trailing behind like a haunted dog. At the edge of Caldera Springs, May meets you on the porch of the boarding house. She's holding her rifle like it's a favorite child. You saw it, didn't you? You nod, parts of it. She lifts her sleeve, shows you her arm. There's a mark there, not a wound, not a scar, a spiral, burned into her skin like a brand. What is that? I had a dream, she says. Same night you got here, someone touched me, told me it would wake up. I woke up with this. You stare at it. You've seen the same spiral in the book. Page 63, next to a sentence scrawled in someone else's hand. If this mark appears, you don't have long. How many others? She shrugs, too scared to ask. You sit on the porch beside her. The dog is gone again. Town's breaking, you say. It's been broken, she replies. We just finally started noticing. You scan the horizon. Every house, every shadow, every shuttered window. You've seen this before, you ask. May nods. Once. When I was a girl. My father was sheriff then. What happened? He died. How she looks at you? The town forgot him. One day he was there. Next day he wasn't, and no one talked about it again. Like he was plucked out of the earth and erased. You try not to shiver, you fail. I think that's the dustman's real trick, she says. He don't kill you. He unwrites you. You remember the telegraph boy's laughter, the sulfur, the bullet that came back clean. You remember the committee, and suddenly all of this starts to smell like containment, like the whole town is just a lid on something that hasn't finished bubbling. You stand. Micah still hasn't said a word. Good. May eyes you. What now? I need answers, you say. And I think I know where they're buried. She raises an eyebrow, where you glance toward the churchyard, the old cemetery. She nods once. Then I'll cover your back. Why? She shrugs. Because I don't want to forget who I am. You spend the next hour prepping. Gus sharpens 2 iron spikes for you. The preacher gives you a lantern with green glass and whispers, when the flame turns black, run. Micah still hasn't spoken. He follows, loyal and shaken. He carries rope and salt. You reach the old cemetery just after dusk. Not the town graveyard. No. This one's older. Overgrown. Headstones shaped like teeth. Names worn down like the dead are trying to keep their privacy. The gates are rusted but swing open with a sound like sobbing. The grass crunches underfoot. You move slow, one hand on the Colt, the other holding the lantern. May has her rifle drawn. Micah, bless him, has the salt pouch in a death grip. The lantern glows green. You move deeper. The names on the stones start to repeat. Sarah Black, Isaiah Gray, Thomas Hollow, Sarah Black, Isaiah Gray. Over and over, you look around. This isn't a cemetery, it's a trap. And then, the lantern flame turns black. You turn to May. She's gone. Micah gone. The grass is taller now, the sky's closer, and the stones are moving when you're not looking. You don't draw your gun, you whisper to it. Stay true. Then you take one step back. Two. And behind you, footsteps. Your name, spoken in your own voice. You turn, nothing. Then a mirror. Where the tree should be. It shows you, but not you. Your eyes are wrong. Your teeth are too many. You raise the Colt. The mirror smiles and says you've already lost. You fire. The glass explodes into ash, and just like that, May's back. Micah too. Both disoriented, confused. You disappeared, May says. No, you reply. I didn't. You leave the cemetery in silence. Back in town, the lights flicker. The shadows look deeper. The people blink slower. And somewhere not far off, the dustman laughs. Because he knows now. You see him. And that means he's almost ready. When the dustman laughs, you don't hear it with your ears. You feel it. Like a cold finger brushing the inside of your spine. Like breath against your thoughts. It clings to your ribs even after you're back in your room, boots off, Colt on the table, hands trembling just enough to make you question if you really made it out of that cemetery, or if that mirror is still out there, and you are the one trapped behind it. You sit, clean the revolver, one chamber at a time. Ritual over reason. You check the salt pouch, still half full. The lantern sits dark now. No more black flame, but you keep glancing at it anyway. The preacher's words keep echoing when the flame turns black, run. But tonight you didn't. You didn't run. And that's what scares you more than anything. What if that's exactly what the dustman wants? You barely sleep. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe not at all. Your dreams are scattered, stitched together with threads of static and footsteps you don't remember taking. At dawn, you step outside. The town's still here, but just barely. Windows boarded overnight. Doors now bear strange markings. A dead bird lies in the street, its body hollowed out like something breathed it empty. You head to the saloon. The bartender's gone. Just gone. No one's behind the counter. There's a drink already poured at your usual stool. No one touches it. You sit. Micah finds you minutes later. His boots sound heavier now, like something's following him everywhere he walks. He sits beside you, eyes sunken. I remember something he says. You glance at him. When I was in the hole, he continues, I heard a voice. Yours, but different. Wrong. It told me to stay. Told me you'd come down soon. You grip your glass tighter. But it wasn't me. He shakes his head. It smiled too much. You nod slowly. It's learning. I think the dustman doesn't just feed. He studies, tries on faces like coats, finds the one that fits best. Micah leans forward. How do we stop it? You look around the empty saloon. Every creak, every shadow, every unclaimed drink feels like a warning now. We don't, you say. Not yet. First, we need to understand it. So you make a plan. Step 1, the committee. You don't wait for them to come back. You go to them. You, May, and Micah saddle up quiet, quick. No questions asked. You ride to the old depot outside town where the tracks haven't carried a train in 20 years. That's where the preacher said they stayed. The air shifts as you approach. Too clean, too even. May notices it first. It's been scrubbed. She's right. No footprints, no dust on the floorboards. Just chairs arranged in a circle and a map pinned to the wall, Caldera Springs Center marked in red. There's a note under the map. scrawled in ink too neat to trust. You're already the locus. We're observing the spiral. No name, no initials. You search the place. Find a trap door in the back. Micah opens it, peers down, a single chair, facing a mirror. A mirror with your face already in it. You shut the trap door, fast. Back outside, you sit on a bench and exhale. The wind tastes like iron again. Locus, May says. They think you're the center. You nod. I'm starting to agree with them. Why? Because everywhere I go, you say the spiral follows. You remember the graves, the marks repeating, the faces, the voices, the sulfur. Caldera Springs isn't haunted, it's anchored, and somehow the dustman's using you to pull himself through. You ride back. No one speaks. No one has to. Back in town, the preacher waits for you at the edge of the cemetery. He's not smiling. I read further, he says. You follow him to the church. Sit at the altar. He lays the book open, points to a passage that's appeared since yesterday, fresh ink. When the locust refuses to sleep, the dustman grows restless. You stare. I haven't really slept in 3 nights, you murmur. The preacher nods, and he's getting hungry. So I sleep, you say, or you find another way. May steps forward. What's the other way? The preacher hesitates. Then a blood mark, voluntary pain, trick the dustman into thinking you're already claimed. Micah blinks. How gunpowder, salt, burned into the skin. You all look at each other. You don't hesitate. Do it. Later, back in May's room, her walls etched with symbols, the dog finally returned, and watching from the corner, you sit, shirtless, shoulders tense, as the preacher mixes the ash. Micah holds the Colt Navy, unloaded, for now. May preps a hot iron. You sure, she asks. No, you reply, and she presses it into your chest. The pain is immediate, white hot, blooming out from your sternum like a sunrise made of knives. You grit your teeth. Don't scream. You invite it. The preacher dabs the burn with salt and ash, then places the bullet, the clean one, the whole, spit back on your chest. And something inside you shifts, a thud in your ribs, a pause in your breath. You blink and see someone else in the room, just for a second. A flicker, a man in the corner. No face, just a hat, a coat, and eyes like mirrors. Then he's gone. Micah steps back, shaking. May grips her rifle tighter. But you smile, because now you can see him, and he knows it. He's getting closer, but so are you. And if he wants your skin, he's gonna have to fight for it. You don't bandage the burn. The preacher says to let it breathe. If the dustman sees the wound covered, he might think you're hiding from him. But if you wear it like a lantern, he'll think twice about reaching through. So you wear it bare under your shirt skin, tight with ash and salt, a crusted spiral of pain etched across your chest, like a signature on a contract you never signed, but now can't break. That night, you sleep. Not because you're tired, though you are, but because the preacher says you have to. He's waiting for your mind to open just wide enough. So you lie down on the cot, revolver beside you, 1 salt round, loaded 3 under your pillow, and the scorched bullet, the one the earth gave back, resting just above your heart. May sits in the chair across the room, her rifles across her lap. She doesn't say anything, just watches, in case something tries to borrow your face in the dark. You close your eyes and dream, only it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like entry. You're walking through the streets of Caldera Springs, but it's wrong. The buildings are taller, crooked windows facing inward. The saloon has no doors. The church bell is on the ground, ringing without sound. No one's around, except one man, standing in the middle of the street. Hat low, coat long, face unreadable. The dustman. He lifts a finger, points to your chest, and says your name, but not with his voice. With yours. You try to draw your Colt. It's not there. You reach into your coat, only to find the mirror. The same one from the cemetery. You throw it. It doesn't break. It laughs. You wake up gasping, fists clenched, heart pounding hard enough to knock on ribs. May jolts up, gun ready. What she asks, you see him. You nod, drenched in sweat. He used my voice. May swears. That's level 2, preacher's words, she says. Level 1's when you feel him. Level 2's when he borrows. Level 3 is, well, level 3's when you believe it's you. You swing your legs off the bed, breathing hard. The burn across your chest pulses like it knows. You rinse your face. Load your gun. Salt iron, regular. Outside, the sun's not up yet, but the air already smells stale. You walk the town. It feels emptier than it should. You pass the jail, still abandoned. You pass the general store doors, wide open, no one inside. Then you reach the saloon and find the bartender. Or what's left of him. He's slumped behind the counter, face blank, skin, gray mouth open. Not dead, not alive, just missing. Like something reached inside and borrowed everything but the skin. You draw your Colt, step back. May appears behind you. Another hollow, she asks. You nod. Micah joins a minute later. He's pale, lips tight. You ever see it happen, you ask him. No, he says, but I keep hearing it. He touches his ear, like breathing through a keyhole, just behind me. Always just behind. The preacher finds you soon after. He doesn't say much, just checks the bartender, nods grimly and murmurs, "It's feeding again." Then he opens the book. You didn't even see him bring it. He flips to a page marked with a feather black, stiff, likely crow, points to an entry. It's a diagram, a circle made of iron filings and teeth. Circle of refusal, he says. Temporary. You stand inside it, and he can't touch you. What does that mean? Micah asks. The preacher looks at you. It means we're baiting him. You gather what's needed, iron shavings from Gus, 2 pulled teeth from a corpse the preacher refuses to name, salt from Micah's last pouch. You pick the spot, the old graveyard again. You don't like it, but it's thinnest there. If he's going to reach through, that's where it'll happen. You dig a ring in the dirt with your boot heel, pour the iron, lay the teeth at opposite ends. The preacher sprinkles the salt and says something in a language you hope isn't dead. You step into the circle, your Colt in hand. The others watch from the tree line, and then you wait. For minutes, for hours, for something that might not come until it's already inside you. But eventually, the air changes. Not colder, cleaner, like all the dust in the world held its breath. The wind stops, and you hear a knock from the ground. Then a voice. "Let me wear you. It's yours." It laughs. "Let me in, and I'll make them remember your name." The circle hums. The air warps. The trees lean forward, curious. You stay quiet. You don't move. You hold the gun tighter. Then a shape forms just outside the circle. Not full, not human. Like a man drawn in melted candle wax. No mouth, just a smile. It hovers there, watching. Then it lunges, and the circle burns white hot, a flash like lightning in reverse. The thing screams without a voice, recoils, fades. You fall backward, breathing like you've run 100 miles. The preacher runs in. Micah grabs your shoulders. May checks your pulse. You're alive. Barely. You crawl to your knees, spit blood. He's close now, you say. The preacher nods. Next time he won't knock. You look at your hand. The spiral from your chest is spreading. Your veins are darker now. thicker, like ink leaking under skin. Micah sees it. What does that mean? May says it before you can. It means next time he won't have to ask. You holster your revolver and whisper to yourself, better get to level 3 first. You wake to screaming, not from outside, not from May, not from Micah, from yourself. Your hands grip the bed frame. Sweat pours down your temples. The burn across your chest pulses red through the bandage May finally insisted on wrapping. The spiral has spread thin lines now creeping like roots down your ribs, curling under your collarbone, dark as dried ink and just as permanent. You don't remember the dream, but you remember the mirror, and your reflection was smiling. May rushes in with her rifle, breathing hard. It's happening again, she says. Out by the water tower, you're already on your feet. Half-dressed, half-armed, all instinct. You stumble into your boots, grab the Colt, sling the salt pouch over your shoulder, and dash out the door into morning light that feels too flat, like someone dimmed the world and forgot to turn it back on. By the time you reach the tower, the townsfolk are gathering in a semicircle, 10 or 12 of them, faces, blank necks, stiff, all looking up. You follow their eyes, and there it is. A man hanging from the railing of the water tower. No rope, no hook. Just hanging like something invisible grabbed him by the collar and decided to let him dangle until gravity gave up. His mouth is wide open, but he's not making a sound. You step forward, squint, and that's when you see it. He's not hung by his neck. He's being held by his own shadow. It stretches across the tower wall, arms, elongated fingers curled tight like they're clenching the life out of him. May lowers her rifle. No shot, you mutter. Micah stumbles up beside you, carrying the preacher's book open to the page with the shadow sigils. He points to one line. When a man's shadow begins to strangle him, he has already agreed to wear the face. You grit your teeth. Then we pull it off him. You run for the tower. Up the ladder 3 rungs at a time, boots slipping on rusted steel. At the top, the man is twitching, barely conscious. His eyes roll toward you, but they're black. Not pupil black. All black. Like someone poured tar into his skull and asked him to blink with it. You draw the Colt. No, not yet. You kneel beside him. The shadow on the wall pulses. It sees you, and then you hear it. Not a word. A laughter inside your own chest. You bite your tongue, taste blood, pull out the salt pouch, dump the contents in a circle around the man. Then you press your hand to his chest. The spiral is there, same as yours. Only his is inverted. You recoil. Micah yells up from the ground. That's not him anymore. You believe it, but you hesitate. You almost shoot. But then his mouth moves, and he whispers your name. Not like the dustman did. Not like the mirror. He says it like someone drowning, begging. You pull a spike from your coat, one of Gus's iron-forged stakes, and you drive it into his shadow on the tower wall. The man gasps and drops. You lunge, catch his arm, barely pull him back from the edge. He sobs. Not words, just sounds. And the shadow, it recoils. You drag him down one shaking rung at a time. At the bottom, the preacher is waiting with ash and bandages. You caught him before it finished, he says. That buys us a little time. Time for what you ask. To figure out what the dustman wants. You sit in the church with the man you saved. His name is Jonah. He doesn't remember climbing the tower, doesn't remember agreeing to anything. But he remembers the voice. It told me I was a mistake, he says. Told me I was just spare skin. The preacher flips through the book again. Dustman works by doubt, gets in through cracks. Regret, shame, confession. You look at Jonah. What did you confess? Jonah doesn't answer. The preacher says doesn't matter. He fed on it. You lean back. Light a match. Watch it burn down to your fingertips before you blow it out. You said we need to figure out what he wants you say. What if it's not souls or skin? What if it's the town everyone falls quiet? Then May says, you think he's trying to replace it? Micah, still thumbing the book, murmurs, no, not replace, rewrite. And suddenly it clicks. The repeat names in the graveyard, the erased sheriff from May's childhood, the bartender, his skin still warm but no one remembers who he was. The dustman doesn't kill. He edits. Historical fact time. In the late 1800s, several Old West towns, most notably Garnett, Montana, reported collective memory loss events following disappearances. Entire families gone, and days later no one remembered their names. Historians still argue whether these were mass trauma responses or something else. You close your eyes. He's not erasing people for fun, you say. He's redrawing the map, carving out the past so he can own the future. Micah mutters, he's writing himself in. That night you return to the old cemetery, alone. No preacher, no May, no Micah. You want to see the graves again, see the names, prove to yourself they still exist. But when you arrive, they don't. The stones are smooth, all of them, wiped clean, every last name gone. You drop to your knees, run your hands across the granite. No etching. No wear marks, just stone, silent, empty. And in that moment, you understand the dustman isn't coming. He's already here, working his way in. One whisper, one crack, one forgotten name at a time. You reload your revolver and whisper your own name out loud, twice, because you're not about to forget who you are. Not yet. You ride back to town before sunrise, the sky still dark, the wind still cold, your name echoing inside your skull like a bell clanging for the dead. You whisper it again every few steps. First, middle, last, like a warding charm against whatever force keeps trying to rub you out like a chalk drawing in the dust. Your horse doesn't like the road anymore. Its steps are stilted, reluctant. It veers off from shadows even when there's nothing in them. When you dismount at the edge of town, it doesn't wait for a tether. It just bolts. Doesn't even look back. Can't blame it. You wouldn't want to stick around either. You head straight to the church. The lanterns are lit. May's rifle leans against the pew. Micah is half asleep in a chair, his boots off, bandages wrapped around his right wrist. The preacher's kneeling in front of the altar, whispering again. He looks up when you enter. You went back to the graves, he says, not a question. They're blank, you reply. All of them. He nods like that confirms something he hoped wasn't true. That means we're in phase 3, he says. Micah stirs. What's phase 3? The preacher folds the book shut. The town starts unwriting itself. You sit. Feel the burn across your chest, still raw, the skin there, tugging every time you breathe too deep. How do we stop it? The preacher hesitates. We don't. He sees your expression and adds, not the way you're thinking. You can't shoot an erasure. You can't punch a shadow, but you can rewrite back. May speaks from the doorway. You mean fight lies with memory? The preacher nods. Exactly. Names, stories, details. The dustman feeds on silence, forgetting. But if we start remembering aloud constantly, we clog his gears. You smirk. So what, we throw a history lesson at him? Exactly, the preacher says again. A noisy, stubborn, personal one. Micah raises an eyebrow. That's not much of a plan. The preacher looks at him. It's the only one we've got. So you divide up the town. May goes to the schoolhouse, what's left of it. She starts listing every teacher she's ever had, every student who sat beside her, names carved into desks, initials on walls. She speaks them aloud, slow and steady, like she's afraid they'll vanish if she stutters. Micah walks door to door, shouting the names of shopkeepers. Who owned what time they opened, what color dress Miss Colleen wore when she danced alone in the saloon. You head back to the bar and find the bartender's body's gone. Just a clean floor, no drag marks, no blood, not even a glass out of place, but you remember him. You sit at your usual stool and say his name. His name was Grant Meadows. He came from El Paso. He had a scar on his thumb from catching a rattler with a dull knife. He hated rye but poured it because it sold. You pour a glass, set it where he used to stand, then knock it back and slam it down. His name, you repeat, was Grant. The air shifts slightly, just enough to notice. You keep going. Old Man Riley used to sweep the church porch every Sunday. Lucy Carmichael broke her leg trying to ride bareback after 2 shots of tequila. Jonah Lasky, he's still alive and I saw him breathe. You step outside. The clouds above the town are turning slowly, forming a spiral. Micah joins you. Out of breath, "It's working," he says. Some of the names I said, I heard people saying them back, like they were remembering. Then the preacher appears, holding the book. It's glowing, not metaphorically. The pages shimmer, like heat waves. Now he says we bring the fight to him. You ask where he points. To the well, the one at the center of town, the one no one's used in weeks, the one no one talks about. You all approach together, May, Micah, the preacher, and you. The well's covered by a rotted wooden lid. The preacher lifts it. Inside, nothing, just blackness. But the air rushing up is cold and wet, and it smells like sulfur. Micah shines a lantern down. You lean over, see your reflection, and it blinks. The preacher holds out a match, lights it, drops it. You all watch. It doesn't fall, just fades, midair, gone. May spits. Yep, that's a portal. Not yet, the preacher says. Then he takes your hand, unwraps the bandage from your chest, and presses the spiral against the stone rim of the well. Pain flares. Your vision blurs. But something happens. The stone cracks. The spiral lights up. Glows gold, then red, then black. And then you hear the dustman, not a whisper, a scream from below, from inside, and not just one voice. Every voice he's taken. The preacher backs away. He's not underground. He's between. May steadies her rifle. So what now? You answer without thinking. We go in. Micah shakes his head. Into what? You look at him. Into the edit. Because this isn't a town anymore. It's a draft, a working copy. And if the dustman wants to finish rewriting it, you're going to leave your own damn footnote. You don't lower yourself into the well like it's a climb. You fall. Deliberate, slow, feet first. But still, it's a fall. The rope's gone. The walls are slick with something not quite water, not quite earth. There's no sound, but your own breathing and the dull throb of your heartbeat pounding up through your ears. The light from above fades, quickly swallowed by the dark, like a lie getting retold too many times. Then nothing. Just absence. You draw the Colt. Feel its weight anchor you. 1 salt round, 1 iron, 1 normal. Same as always. Except down here, you're not sure what kind of physics bullets answer to. You feel May land behind you with a grunt. Then Micah lighter. He coughs. Says something, but the words bend like they're underwater. The preacher's the last to arrive. And when his boots hit the ground, the floor moves. Not crumbles, shifts. Like something beneath the stone just woke up to say, "Oh good, you brought more skin." Your lantern flickers, and you see where you are. Not a tunnel, not a cavern, an archive. Shelves carved into the walls, pages fluttering without wind, books stacked like bones, each one blank, or nearly. You pull one down. It has a name on the spine. Riley Thomas, the church sweeper, may remembered. You open it. Nothing but the word used to be over and over again, typed in uneven lines. Used to be. Used to be. Used to be. Then in one shaky corner he liked dried apples. Had a daughter, never wrote her back. You close the book. Your hands are shaking now, and you're sweating through your coat, even though the air is colder than a cave in midwinter. Micah walks past you and touches one of the walls. His fingers come back smudged with black ink. Are these memories? You nod. They're what's left of them. The preacher raises the lantern. There's more ahead, he says. And so you walk deeper into the unplace. Every step, more names. Every step, more books. Every book, more erased people. Until finally you reach the end. Or something like it. A wide, hollow space. And in the center, a chair. Wooden, empty, facing a tall mirror. No frame, just silver and silence. May steps beside you. I don't like this, she says. Then the mirror ripples, and you see yourself. But again, it's not you. It's him, the dustman. This time he's gotten better. Your stance, your coat, your scar. But the eyes, they're too kind, too knowing. He smiles, and then he speaks. Not aloud. In your mind. You're so close. You already want to forget. I see it. The guilt, the regret. Let me take it. Let me wear it. You can rest. You raise the colt. So does he. Micah gasps. Wait, don't shoot. The preacher shakes his head. It's a trick. Not yet, you say. And step into the circle. You and the dustman. Mirror against man. You lower the gun slightly. What do you want, you ask? He smiles wider. To relieve you. You frown. Of what? The burden of memory. It's such a heavy thing, isn't it? That time you froze. That boy in Elko. That house fire in El Paso. You never talk about it. You never will. But you remember it, and it rotted you. Let me take it. Your knees almost buckle. The boy in Elko. You hadn't thought about him in years. You had a clear shot. You hesitated. He didn't. You still see his face when the mirror fogs. Let it go, the dustman whispers. Let me carry it. Your hand starts to lower the revolver. Then a voice. His name was Silas Chambers. May. From behind you. She steps forward. Says it again louder. Silas. That's the boy in Elko. Say it. You close your eyes. Silas Chambers. The dustman twitches, and for a second your reflection glitches. The scar jumps sides. You raise your gun. Whisper he didn't deserve to die, and fire. The bullet hits the glass and passes through, and so do you. It's not darkness, it's crowd. Voices, hundreds of them, screaming, whispering, laughing, crying. You're standing in the center of a town that's not Caldera Springs, but it's trying to be. Every person's face is yours. Some young, some old, some burned, some erased. They all look at you and speak together in a chorus of, "You we forgot for a reason." You're the one dragging it back. You holster the Colt. Reach into your coat. Pull out the preacher's book. You hold it up like it's holy. And you speak. I remember Lucy Carmichael. I remember Silas Chambers. I remember Riley. I remember Jonah May Micah. I remember every name in that graveyard, Sarah Black, Isaiah Gray, Thomas Hollow. The air shakes. A rumble splits the knot town under your feet. The people of you begin to flicker, and one by one they vanish. The dustman appears again. Just him. No mirror. No tricks. He walks toward you. Slow. Deliberate. But now you don't flinch. You walk toward him. Revolver raised. Last salt round chambered. And when he reaches for your face, you fire point blank. The world splits. You wake in the church, gasping. The preacher leans over you. Micah's crying. May's hands are shaking as she presses a cloth to your shoulder. "You're back," the preacher says. You nod. "Barely. What did you see?" You look around the room. Everything's still there. The walls, the names, the pews, the town, everything you whisper. I saw everything, and it's still here. Because you remembered, because you fought, because the dustman wasn't the only one writing the story. The dustman doesn't die. Not really. You shot him point blank with salt and memory, and that did something, but it didn't end him. You know that deep in your bones where cold things settle. You didn't kill the dustman, you bruised him. And now he's licking his wounds, hiding, waiting. Like a story that didn't get told properly. The preacher says he may not return for a season, or a year, or a generation, but he always comes back. That's how stories work. The bad ones wait. They twist, ferment, get retold in new mouths. But for now, the town is whole, more or less. You spend the next morning checking the town like it's a patient in a sickbed. One street at a time, one name at a time. First stop the saloon. The stool where Grant Meadows used to pour drinks is empty, but now there's a plaque nailed to the bar, in memory of Grant. He hated rye. It shouldn't matter, but it does. May's the one who carved it. You don't say anything when you see it. You just nod, and she nods back. Down the street, the general store is open again. A new clerk, a teenage girl with dark eyes and sharp wrists, stands behind the counter. Her name's Joni. Says she found her way here after forgetting why she left the last town. That's a detail you don't press. At the jail, the door's been repaired. The crooked star on the door now hangs straight. No sheriff yet, but the preacher's considering wearing the badge again. Only part-time, he says. No interest in dying behind a desk. Micah's rebuilding the schoolhouse. You didn't ask him to. No one did. But there he is, hammer in hand, windows replaced, floorboards scrubbed. He's teaching himself how to teach mumbling lesson plans about arithmetic and how to recognize a shadow that doesn't belong. He's still got scars on his arms from the salt burns, but he keeps his sleeves rolled up, makes the kids stare at them. So they know it was real, he says. You let him. Because he's right. You return to the preacher's house one evening, just as the sun sets over the rooftops and the sky bruises purple. He's sitting on the porch writing something into the final pages of the book. You ask, "Is it over?" He nods. For now. Do you think he'll come back? He looks up. Only if we let him. Then he hands you a page. Fresh ink. Your name across the top. Followed by every choice you made. Every time you didn't flinch. Every time you spoke a name aloud. I'm giving you a chapter, the preacher says. Because you earned it. You sit beside him. Watch the shadows stretch. They'll come again, won't they, you ask? Others like him. Sure, he says. New coats, new faces, but same teeth. You ask, what do we do then? He smiles. Same as we always do. You raise an eyebrow. We remember. Later that night, you sit on the porch of May's boarding house. The air is warm, the breeze soft. The kind that would have made you anxious before. But now it just feels like breathing. May brings you a glass of something strong. You nod your thanks. She sits, doesn't speak for a long while, then says, I had a dream. You glance over. She continues. The dustman was walking down Main Street, wearing your coat, your voice. But every time he tried to speak, the whole town shouted back. You sip your drink. That's a good dream. She nods. It was. Then she looks at you. You ever figure out why it was you? You think about it. The well, the spiral, the mirror, the reflection that grinned too wide. You shake your head. No, maybe I was just in the wrong town at the right time. She leans back. Or maybe you were the right person in the wrong place. You finish your drink, holster the Colt, pat your chest where the burn still itches, a dull echo of pain beneath the skin. The mark hasn't faded, but you don't want it to. It's your anchor now. The next morning you walk the ridge. No sign of the hole, just flat dirt and old wind. Micah joins you halfway, stands beside you. No more breathing dirt, he says. You nod. No more mirrors either. You hand him a slip of paper. He reads it. It's a name. Silas Chambers, he says aloud. You close your eyes. Don't forget it. I won't. You head back down the ridge as the sun climbs over Caldera Springs. You don't look back, because you don't need to. The town remembers now, and the dustman. He can wait in the dark all he wants, because this time when he knocks, he won't find a door, just a name, and a gun that doesn't sleep. You spend the next few days in a kind of limbo. Not peace is a myth out here, but something adjacent to it. A silence that feels earned. The kind of quiet that settles over a place only after something loud has been shoved back into the shadows. Caldera Springs doesn't go back to normal. It becomes new. The townsfolk walk a little taller, though they still watch the horizon like they expect something to come crawling out of it. No one talks much about the well, or the mirror, or the scream they all felt, but barely heard. But they're different now. You can see it. They remember. The preacher hosts something like a town meeting. No podium, no agenda. Just people sitting in the church, passing stories around like food at a fire. Micah reads from the repaired schoolhouse register, calls out names just to say them. The audience repeats each one, out loud. It's almost holy. May starts building a new fence around the cemetery. Not to keep anything in, she says, just to make sure the world knows someone's watching. You help her dig post holes. You don't talk while you work. But when she hands you the hammer, you notice her eyes are clearer, less haunted. The preacher says the dustman's not gone, she mutters, just dormant. You nod. He's a concept. You can't kill a concept, but you can outlast it. You drive the post into the dirt. She says, you think we'll ever see him again, and you look out toward the mountains. Probably, but not like before. No, you agree. Next time he'll wear a new face. That night, the preacher knocks at your door, hands you something wrapped in oilcloth. You unwrap it. It's a journal, but not blank. The first 10 pages are filled with memories that aren't yours. Jonah's handwriting, Riley's, Lucy Carmichael's. The preacher explains. I asked them to write. Just one story each. Doesn't have to be long. Doesn't have to be important. Just something true. You flip through. Jonah writes about the way his mother made biscuits, used too much flour, always burned the bottoms. Lucy writes about a scar on her shin from tripping over a goat in front of the boy she liked. Riley's is barely legible, just a sentence, I had a dream once, and it was mine. You look up. The preacher shrugs. Truth is stronger than fear, but only if we tell it out loud. You sit down and write something too. Not about the dustman, not about the well. You write about the day before all of it. The morning your horse lost a shoe and Gus cussed so loud the church windows rattled. How that tiny delay meant you got to town one day, too late to be erased like the others. Coincidence, you don't think so. You sign the bottom of the page, then close the journal. Later that week, a traveler comes through town, rides slow, horse lean, face wrapped in a scarf. Doesn't say much. Asks for a drink, asks for directions, then asks, "Anything strange happen here recently?" Everyone stays quiet. Then Micah steps forward, says nothing we couldn't handle. The traveler nods, tips his hat, and rides on. You watch him go, eyes narrowed, hat low, but his shadow's normal. So you let him pass. That night you walk alone down the center of Main Street. The stars are bright. The wind is still. But your colt is heavy on your hip, and the spiral beneath your shirt still itches like a wound that wants to remember. You whisper a name to yourself, just one. Silas, then another. May, then more. Micah, Grant, Riley, Lucy, Gus, Jonah, Sarah, Hollow, Chambers. The names settle around you like armor, because if the dustman ever comes back, you're not going to outdraw him. You're going to outname him. You head home, sit on the porch, light a match, watch it burn. And in the flickering flame, just for a heartbeat, you see a reflection in the glass of your window. A face. Your face, smiling too wide. And then, it's gone. You finish your cigarette, put the colt on your lap, and whisper to the night I remember. The shadows stay still. For now, the days pass like slow thunder, quiet, heavy, and waiting for something to crack the sky. You start keeping a notebook, not the preacher's journal. That one stays safe in the church on the altar, wrapped in cloth and salt, only opened during town gatherings. Yours is smaller, leather-bound, rough pages. You carry it in your coat pocket next to the spare rounds and the piece of black mirror you broke in the knot town. It cuts you sometimes when you forget it's there. You let it. Every day you write something down, a name, a habit, a detail. Gus hates the smell of lavender. Micah chews the end of pencils until they're unusable. May hums when she's reloading, just barely audible. Some tune with no name. You treat it like ammunition, because it is. The preacher calls this the echo defense. You remember loud enough, he says, and when the silence comes creeping, it doesn't know where to settle. The dustman's not back. But you still feel him, like a bad weather front miles off. Just waiting. One morning, the dog that never barked dies. Old age, no fuss. May finds him curled under the porch. You bury him together. Say his name, Bartleby, even though none of you had ever agreed on it. You carve it into a small rock, just in case. Later that night, you hear a knock on your door. Not the dustman's knock. No sulfur, no backwards wind. Just 3 polite taps. It's a girl, maybe 14, dirt-streaked, thin hands, wearing a man's coat too big for her. She says nothing at first. Then she says, "You remember people here?" You nod slowly. We try to. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out a folded paper, hands it to you. It's a name, Samuel Vance. No address, no date, just a note under it. Don't let them take him. You look at her again. She's already backing away. Who sent you? She shakes her head. I don't remember. You want to chase her. But the wind shifts, and your spine prickles. You light the lantern, hold the paper up to it. That's when you notice the ink isn't ink. It's blood. You ride out with May and Micah before sunrise. No trail, no map, just that name. You check every corner of Caldera Springs, every cabin, every homestead. Nothing. Until you reach the abandoned mine just north of the ridge. It's been boarded up for years, but the door's ajar, and carved into the wood over and over, Vance. Vance, Vance, Vance. You go in. It's cold, still, air thick with chalk dust and memory. You find him near the second shaft, tied to a chair, alive, barely. You cut him free. He doesn't speak at first, but when you say his name, Samuel Vance, he weeps, as if he thought no one would ever say it again. Back in town, the preacher adds Vance's story to the altar book. Turns out he was a stagecoach driver. Went missing 2 years ago. No one reported it. Everyone just assumed he moved on. Only, he didn't. The dustman had pocketed him, tucked him away like a scrap of narrative he wasn't ready to use yet. Why didn't he erase him? May asks. The preacher shrugs. Maybe he forgot. Or maybe this is worse. Maybe the dustman's letting you win a few just to see how you fight. Test your defenses. Study your stories. You go back to the church late that night. Just you. One candle. You open the journal to a blank page and write, "The dustman makes edits." But we have footnotes. We have cross-references. We have names in the margins, initials in the corners, smudges where someone cried onto the paper. You close the book and sit and wait. And for the first time in weeks, you feel something close to peace. No, not peace. Readiness. The next day, the wind brings something new. A letter. No stamp. Just folded, sealed with red wax. You break it open. Inside is a list. 10 names. All crossed out except 2. Yours and May's. Micah's name isn't even on it. You show them. Micah goes quiet. "What does that mean?" he finally asks. The preacher answers for you. It means he's not trying to erase you anymore. Then what, he's trying to recruit you. You step back. The wind catches the letter and rips it out of your hand. It floats down the street, curling like it's dancing. You don't chase it. Let it blow. You're already writing your own list, one that includes every name the dustman tried to take, every story he tried to cancel, and right at the bottom, dustman will not be forgotten, will not be forgiven, will not win. May watches you finish it. She leans over, says, "It's going to come down to you and him, isn't it?" You nod. "I think it always was." You wake before dawn to the sound of your own voice. But you didn't say anything. You sit up, pistol drawn, breath tight in your throat. The voice is outside, repeating your name like it's trying it on. Soft, then firmer, then sarcastic. "Sounds a little tired, doesn't it?" the voice says. You don't respond. You move to the window and peek through the slats. There's a figure standing at the edge of the street. Hat, low coat, swaying. Nothing special, except his shadow stretches the wrong way. You tighten your grip on the Colt. He raises a hand, not to wave, but to point. At you. Then he opens his mouth and half a dozen voices spill out at once. Not words, just names. All of them yours. Your childhood nickname. Your military alias. Your mother's lullaby said back to you in reverse. You step back. May's already out front, rifle up, boots heavy on the porch. Micah joins her, holding the preacher's book like it might burn if he drops it. The figure doesn't move, but his voice curls through town like smoke in a sealed room. The preacher steps out from the church. He doesn't look surprised. He just mutters, "It's begun." And that's when you feel it. The town has tilted. Not physically, but narratively. Caldera Springs is no longer just a place. It's the final chapter. You gather in the saloon, the safest spot left. Why? Because it has mirrors, and you've already cracked every single one. Micah places a small map on the table. "We've marked every place he's touched," he says. "Every home with blank spots. Every name that skips when you say it out loud. It looks like someone's shot the town full of holes." May circles a few spots in red. "Look here. The windmill, the graveyard, the school, the well. All these are touch points." The preacher nods. "Conduits. He didn't just slip into town, he planted himself." You stare at the map, then say, "So let's burn the roots." Micah raises a brow. "What, literally, if needed?" The preacher frowns. Careful. Fire's cleansing, but it's also erasing. You can't fight him with the same tools. He opens the journal, flips to a page titled The Last Retelling. It's half-written, filled with phrases that don't quite make sense. Say the name until it answers. Stand in the place where you forgot yourself. When he wears your voice, whisper your regrets louder. May leans over. Is this prophecy or poetry? The preacher says. At this point, does it matter? Micah slaps the table. We need something real, something solid, a weapon, a plan. You speak without lifting your eyes from the page. We need a memory strong enough to burn him. They go quiet, because they know what you're about to say. You close the book, stand, and walk out the door, to the place you've never spoken of. The one memory you buried deeper than any grave. It's 20 minutes west of town, a crumbling ruin of a cabin you built yourself back when you thought peace was something you could earn. This is where it happened. The boy in Elko, Silas. He wasn't aiming to kill you. He was just scared. You saw it in his eyes, but you froze. You hesitated. And when he fired, you felt it in your chest, not the bullet, but the truth. You should have stopped him. Instead, you let the moment pass. And then it passed you. May follows you there. She doesn't say a word, just watches you kneel. You touch the blackened doorway, the soot, the warped boards. You whisper Silas's name 3 times. The wind howls, and when you stand, the spiral on your chest glows. Not painfully, like an answer, like it knows. Micah rides up fast, eyes wide. They're coming, he pants. Not people, not fully, but they're shaped like them. You mount up. The preacher waits at the gate of Caldera Springs holding a lantern with green flame. They're not him, he says. They're versions, pieces, forgotten drafts. May whispers ghosts of possibilities. You nod. Then let's make this the final cut. The first wave hits at nightfall. Figures walking like broken clockwork. Faces like wax left too long in the sun. Some wear your face, others wear no face at all. You shoot the first one. Salt round, dead center. It folds. Not like a man, like a page being turned too fast. Micah hurls iron nails laced in ash. May's rifle doesn't miss once. You step into the street, Colt drawn, spiral burning. The dustman walks toward you, same hat, same coat. But now he's wearing everyone. Your mother, your lover from Abilene, your sergeant from the war. And you say none of them are yours. Then you speak your own name, the full one, every part. Even the middle name you never liked. You say it 3 times, and the dustman flinches. Cracks begin forming in his skin. You open your journal, read aloud the entries. Grant Meadows, Sarah Black, Lucy Carmichael, Silas Chambers, Jonah Lasky, Bartleby, even Gus. And the dustman starts to wither. He stumbles back, screams in every voice at once. You aim, last bullet, iron and ash. You fire, and the bullet doesn't hit him. It hits the hole behind him, the one you hadn't seen, the edit, the place he was hiding his final rewrite. And the world around you snaps back. The sky tears, the figures vanish, and the dustman, he's just gone. No smoke, no scream, just absence. But you remember, you expect the world to cheer when it's over. It doesn't, because it's not over. The dustman's gone, but the edits remain like a crooked seam in a blanket that never quite sits right. You wake the next morning to birdsong, not eerie, just birds, and that makes you suspicious. May is already on the porch, boots off, cleaning her rifle like she didn't just face something ancient. Micah is asleep by the church, using the preacher's book as a pillow. The preacher himself is nowhere in sight. You take a walk, down Main Street, to the edge of town, and stop at a storefront that shouldn't exist. It's not new, it's old. Old in a way that's too old. Faded sign, dusty windows, a name carved above the door, Chambers and Sons. Escher, 1849. Your stomach drops, because that name you never told anyone. Silas's last name. You never said it aloud after the dustman vanished. And yet here it is, on a sign in wood carved years before you were born. You step inside. It smells like cedar and ink. Shelves of ledgers line the wall. Everything in perfect order. Too perfect. You flip open one book. Blank pages until page 3, where you see your own handwriting, words you've never written. He thought the boy didn't matter. That forgetting was mercy. But the town remembered, so he had to too. You close the book slowly. This isn't a store. It's a trap door. One the dustman left behind. A memory implanted backward, disguised as history. A failsafe. May walks in behind you, quiet as fog. She sees the sign. Frowns. You didn't tell us that name? You nod. I didn't need to. So what is this versioning you say? Micah appears in the doorway, neck stretching. You explain when you overwrite something too hard, you leave fragments. Sometimes they grow. The preacher enters last. He doesn't look surprised. He just mutters, "This town's still full of trapdoors." And then he points to a map on the wall. It shows Caldera Springs. Only there are 3 overlapping town layouts. Subtle changes. One with a church on the north side. One with no saloon. One where the well doesn't exist at all. Micah exhales. He didn't just rewrite the past. He wrote alternates, you say, and let them all bleed in. You run your fingers along the counter, noticing how it ends in a jagged splinter, just like the desk in your childhood home. This shop never existed, but it feels familiar because it's partially yours, partially everyone's. May leans on the counter. So now what? We pick which version is real. You shake your head. We make it real. The preacher smiles faintly. You finally understood. That evening, the town gathers again, not to fight, to decide. You and Micah draw the map, the cleanest version. No alternate saloons, no mirrored wells, no ghost shops with stolen names. Just what's here now. You hang it on the church wall beside the altar book. Then you pass out pens, and every person in Caldera Springs signs their name. The preacher reads each one aloud, out loud, deliberate, echoed by the crowd. And as they do, you feel something settling, the kind of calm that only comes when chaos finally agrees to sleep. May signs last, then passes the pen to you. You hesitate, then sign your full name, all 3 parts, and beneath it you write, "I was here, I remember, I remain." The preacher closes the book, and you know you've closed the edit. The next morning, the shop is gone. Just a blank patch of dirt. No dust. No debris. Micah checks his notebook. I wrote it down. It was there. You nod. That's the point. We remembered too hard. It couldn't hold. May whistles. Hell of a way to kill a building. You holster your gun. We didn't kill it. We outwrote it. The preacher locks the altar book in a chest beneath the pulpit. Dustman may come again, he says. But next time you reply, we'll write faster. Micah laughs. Never thought writing could be a weapon. May grins. Out here, everything's a weapon. The preacher gives you the key to the chest. Says nothing. Just nods. You nod back. Because now the town's memory is your responsibility. And you don't intend to forget anything again. Not names, not dates, not regrets. Especially not regrets. The town breathes easier. You can feel it. Like a loosened belt after a long meal. a collective sigh tucked between dust and dusk. But underneath that quiet and pulsing is something else. A sense that you're not done. Not you personally, though your role's getting heavier. You as in the town, as in Caldera Springs. It's not haunted anymore. But it's not clean either. Like a house where someone died, but nobody ever said it out loud. The preacher's been sealing cracks in the church foundation with salt and wax. Every morning he hums a tune that has no words, just the rhythm of a funeral march and the key of sunrise. Micah is writing again. Full sentences now. Not just names and memories. He started calling it the Caldera Ledger, a mix of town journal, personal reckoning, and whatever this place needs to remember next. May's training the kids, little things, how to track footprints, how to spot shadows that don't belong, how to whisper your name when you feel it slipping. You've started making rounds again. Boots on dirt, gun on hip, notebook and coat. Because you're not sheriff and you never will be. But this town, it looks to you like one. One morning you find a new carving in the back wall of the saloon. Just a word. Remembered. It's rough, uneven. You touch it with your fingers and smile. You don't need to know who carved it. It's not for you. It's for the dustman. A warning. Then one afternoon, the preacher knocks. He's carrying a package, wrapped in muslin. Smells like sage. Inside a mirror. Cracked. He places it on your table. Found it behind the altar, he says. Didn't know it was there until today. You both stare at it. It doesn't reflect anything, not even light. You say, "What do we do with it?" He shrugs. Could bury it, could break it. You nod, then say no. Instead, you take it to the ridge, set it up on a wooden post, facing east. So if he comes again, he has to look at himself first. Micah joins you as you hammer it into place. Feels like bait, he says. You reply, "It's not bait, it's a boundary." He nods. Doesn't ask what that means, because he knows. The dustman doesn't like being seen. That was always your advantage. He worked in erasure. You worked in ink. May walks up later, chewing a piece of jerky. We expecting him back, you shake your head. Not yet, but eventually you sigh. Eventually, everything returns. The next week, a storm rolls in from the north. Lightning without rain. Wind without dust. You wait for the dustman, but he doesn't show. Instead, a woman does. Long coat, 2 dogs at her heels, a rifle older than the town itself strapped to her back. She walks into town like she already owns part of it. Stops at the well. Stares. Then says, "He's been here, hasn't he?" You nod. How long ago? Not long enough. She spits on the ground. I followed him out of Wexler County, she says. Watched him hollow out a wedding party. Bride kept smiling after she stopped breathing. You grimace. May says name, the woman looks up. Eyes like carved obsidian. Call me Finch. She reaches into her coat. Pulls out a tin badge warped and pitted with what looks like teeth marks. This used to mean something, she says. Back when memory had weight. You say here it still does. Finch stares at you, then smiles slow and grim. Good, she says. Then I'll stay a while. That night you carve another name into your journal. Finch. Dogs too. History deep. Eyes never blink. Micah sees it and adds a note. Not a ghost, but not clean either. May adds, shoots left, sleeps light. The preacher doesn't write anything. He just nods when he sees the name. Because names are weight. And weight is what keeps the dustman out. You dream again. Not of the dustman. Of the edit. You're standing in a hallway of doors. Each one labeled with a name you almost forgot. You open one. See a moment you never lived. You close it. Move on. You wake with a jolt. Notebook in hand. Name on your tongue, Bram Lowell. You don't know who that is. You write it anyway, because maybe that's the next one. The next almost erased. Maybe the dustman's still playing long games, leaving seeds, little name-shaped traps. But now you're ready. This town is ready. The preacher says it best the next morning. We're not the town he forgot. You nod. We're the town that remembered anyway. The snow comes early. Just a dusting, but enough to change the sound of boots on wood and the smell of the air. Everything sharper, quieter, like the world's holding its breath again. You don't like it. Neither does the town. Not after what happened last time things got too quiet. The well stays sealed. May reinforces it every third day, new nails, fresh salt, new charm etched in chalk and bloodroot. You offered to help once? She shook her head. This is my memory to guard. Fair enough. Micah, meanwhile, has taken to reading aloud from the Caldera Ledger at the church steps every Sunday. Doesn't matter who's listening. He calls it proof of presence. He starts each reading the same way I say these names, not for them, but for us. And then he lists them. Jonah Lasky, Lucy Carmichael, Grant Meadows, Bartleby the dog, Silas Chambers, Samuel Vance, Finch, and every child born since the dustman fled, even if they haven't spoken a word yet. You always stand at the back, silent. Hand on your notebook. Thumb on the scarred edge of the spiral beneath your shirt. It doesn't glow anymore, but it itches, like it's waiting for a knock. One day, a boy goes missing. Tommy Boyd, 10 years old, red hair, chipped tooth, always ran a little crooked on one leg. Left for the creek early morning, never came back. Half the town starts searching. The preacher organizes the effort. May tracks footprints. Micah rereads every page of the ledger, checking for edits. You take the North Ridge, and you find him. Tommy. Alive, but changed. He's sitting beneath the ash tree with a notebook in his lap, covered in dirt but calm, humming something tuneless. When you call his name, he blinks, smiles. Found a new version, he says. You kneel beside him. What do you mean, Tommy? He flips open the notebook. Inside, a single line written over and over again. This one is better. You take the book gently from his hands. He doesn't resist. You close it and feel cold run through your veins like black ink, because the handwriting is yours. But you've never written those words in your life. You pick Tommy up, carry him back. Don't say a word the whole way. The preacher reads the notebook, frowns. It's not possession, he says. It's seepage. May asks, meaning. He sighs. The dustman didn't return, but the draft did. A ghost of a rewrite. Slipped through the cracks of our defenses, found an empty moment. A boy alone with no one saying his name. Micah mutters, we got lazy. No, you say. We got confident. And he's still listening. That night, the town gathers in the saloon. Not for drinks, for naming. Every person says Tommy's name aloud. Every person tells one thing about him. His chipped tooth. The way he holds a frog with two fingers like it's a violin. How he once kicked a rooster and said it deserved it. It takes over an hour. But by the end, Tommy's himself again. And he cries. Not because he's scared, but because he says, I almost liked the other me better. You hug him tight and whisper, real you is enough. After that, you start the night watch. Volunteers take shifts walking the town after sunset. Not looking for thieves, looking for silence, stillness, places where memory softens too much. The preacher paints wards on every doorframe. Micah updates the map, adds blinking pins to places where names slip. May sharpens her knives. and you walk. Notebook in hand, whispering names, not just ones from town, but your own, your mother's, your enemies, your regrets. You recite them all, because the dustman feeds on omission, and you're not leaving anything behind. One night Finch joins you, silent at first. Then she says, "In Wexler we never did this." What say names? We thought silence was safety. You nod. That's what he wants. She stops walking, turns to face you. Her dogs flank her ears, perked. You know he's still here, right? You sigh, fragments or bait. You meet her gaze. He's learning too. She nods. Then we better learn faster. The preacher finishes the final page of the altar book. It reads, "The town remembers because the people refuse not to, even in silence, even in grief, even when forgetting would be easier." They speak, and the dustman cannot undo what's spoken in unison. The next morning, Micah nails a sign to the town gate. Simple letters, carved deep, burned black. Here you are not forgotten. People start copying it. Little signs in their homes, on fences, in barns, even on gravestones. The spiral on your chest itches once more. You look down, and for the first time you see it fading. Just a little. Just enough to feel like hope. But not so much that you forget what it cost you. You turn north, look toward the ridgeline. Somewhere beyond it, the dustman is watching. Waiting. But this time you're watching back. The frost sticks around longer than it should. Not in a threatening way, just a reminder. Like nature itself knows the town is still balancing between versions, and it doesn't want to rush anything. You rise before dawn most days now. Not from nightmares, those have mostly faded, but from habit. From the memory of what it felt like to wake to your name being used by something that had never earned it. May keeps her rifle close, but you notice she started planting things. Tomatoes behind the boarding house. A strip of herbs along the church wall. She never calls it a garden. Micah spends hours with the ledger. He says the writing comes easier now, less of a fight. He's added a section called Futures, blank pages where folks can write what they want to remember before it happens. The preacher rarely speaks anymore unless it matters. When he does, people lean in, you included. The altar book is full now, its spine cracked from use, its pages softened by hands and breath and time. He says there'll be a second volume, but not until this one's been read all the way through out loud. He's planning a festival, a reading, one night of uninterrupted memory. He calls it the telling. You say that'll make him angry. The preacher says, let him come. Finch leaves, not suddenly, not secretly. One morning, she just walks to the edge of town, looks back once and says, "You're doing it right. Don't stop." Her dogs follow without a sound. You find her name carved on a rock by the well. Finch. Stayed. Watched. Warned. You smile. Scratch it into your own notebook. Then walk to the church and add her to the altar book. She earned the page. One night, May finds you on the ridge. You're staring east, toward the mirror post. It's cracked worse now, like the reflection's trying to crawl out. She sits beside you, hands you a letter. No return mark. Just a single word on the front, yours. Inside your handwriting. But again, not yours. It's still possible, you know, to stop remembering, to rest. All you have to do is let go. Just a little. I can carry the weight. May watches your face. You gonna keep reading that? You shake your head. Tear the letter once, twice, then a third time. Drop the pieces to the dirt. No, I thought not. You sit in silence a while. Then she says, "Tell me a story." You grin. Which one doesn't matter. as long as it's true. So you tell her the story of how Gus once convinced you a bandit had cursed his boots, and how you all spent 2 days hunting a ghost, only to find out it was just a rock in his heel. She laughs, the kind that stings a little from not being used enough. Then she says, "Keep telling it." So you do. Even when the sun starts to rise. Even when the spiral finally fades completely from your chest. You keep telling. Because that's how you win. The town is quiet now. Not in a fearful way, but in a restful one. The kind of quiet that settles into the bones of a place that has remembered too much and survived it anyway. You walk through Main Street with your coat open and your gun holstered, not because you're careless, but because you're known. And knowing is power. You pass the old, well-sealed, tight circle of ash undisturbed, and you tip your hat to it. Not out of fear, but respect. The preacher is reading to a half-dozing group on the church steps. His voice is slower now, gentler, like each word he speaks is a seed he's planting in the dirt. Micah waves from the schoolhouse, his sleeves rolled and chalk on his hands. May's in the garden, a shovel in one hand and a jug of water in the other. The tomatoes look strong. You whisper a few names to yourself, just to keep the air full. You still carry the notebook, still walk at night. But now you walk not just to watch, but to witness. Because the dustman may come back, someday, in some shape. But if he does, he'll find a town wrapped in its own story. Too loud to rewrite, too stubborn to forget, too named to disappear. So now close your eyes. Let the weight settle. Let the wind hum. Because tonight you're safe. The town remembers. And so do you. End of script. Sweet dreams.